Chapter 631. Yunjian's back was facing Ce just now, so she had her back to Ce when she entered the room. She had planned to lean her back against the door to close it and lock it, but she did not expect Ce to be one step ahead of her and enter the room first. Just as Ce entered the room, he scooped Yunjian up and pressed Yunjian onto the big bed not far away. Ce's arms were wrapped around Yunjian's waist as he pressed Yunjian on the bed. Yunjian's back happened to be leaning against him. Yunjian was still wearing her pajamas earlier, but her sleepiness was all gone when she was suddenly pressed down. It was also at that moment that her cheeks flushed. The white lights in the room were on and the temperature was rising bit by bit. Yunjian could even feel Ce's breathing growing heavier on her back. Xiaojian. Ce's masculine voice sounded like a starving beast that suddenly found food but dared not strike. Yunjian was startled. She could clearly feel that Ce's actions today were more uncontrollable than before. You. Before Yunjian could speak, Ce had already flipped Yunjian over and kissed Yunjian's beautiful lips fiercely, tossing and turning. Unlike the gentle kisses in the past, this kiss was heavy and ferocious, like a torrential river. Yunjian's heart was about to stop. As they kissed, Yunjian's gaze gradually blurred. While Yunjian was being kissed passionately, she suddenly felt a chill in front of her chest. Unbeknownst to her, her jacket and thermal underwear had been taken off. Yunjian was startled as Ce's large palm moved to her bra. She pressed Ce's palm down in time. Ce was obviously intoxicated by the fragrant body. This was something he had never experienced before. Other than the tights on her lower body that were still intact, Yunjian's upper body was only left with a bra. Her ample bosom was wrapped by the bra as she lay beneath Ce, fueling Ce's desire. Finally extricating herself from Ce's lips, Yunjian was pinned down and unable to move. Still, she panted a few times and blurted out what she wanted to say. "What's wrong with you?" Ce hugged her and bent over, burying his head on Yunjian's collarbone under her chin and asked, "Is your mom moving to Yunjian's house after she gets married?" Yeah. What's wrong?" Yunjian nodded. "Are you going to follow her?" This was what Ce wanted to ask the most. Yunjian and Qin Yiru's wedding date shouldn't be too long. If Yunjian were to move out, how long would it take for him to see her again? If my mom moves to Officer Ji's house, I'll naturally follow her. Not only me but Xiaozhu will also go. Alright, my brother will too. After all, this isn't my house. My mom has been here for so long that she's actually quite embarrassed. Before Yunjian could finish her sentence, she felt a shadow covering her lips again. What followed was a long period of demanding. It was only when Yunjian was about to suffocate from the kiss that Ce finally let go of her lips. Yunjian didn't understand what Ce meant. If Qin Yiru were to marry Yunjian, she would naturally move out. And Yunjian would definitely move out with Qin Yiru. Xiao Yunzhu and Yunyi would also move out. Yunjian couldn't figure out what he was angry about. Just as Ce lowered his head to cover her lips again, Yunjian suddenly turned her head and asked him, "What's wrong with you today?" Chapter 632. Just as Ce was about to kiss her passionately, the door suddenly opened. The door opened all of a sudden as Yunzhu popped his head in. When Ce entered the room, he locked the door. However, his heart was on Yunjian when he locked the door, so he only locked it halfway. The door wasn't locked properly. Xiao Yunzhu was about to fall asleep in his room when he suddenly remembered that he had something to tell his sister. He ran to Yunjian's room to tell her about it. When the door opened, Xiao Yunzhu's head popped in. He opened the door excitedly and said, Sister, Xiaozhu forgot to tell you that the school is having a parent-child sports day next week. Can sister and brother Ce attend Xiaozhu's sports day together?" Before Xiaozhu could finish his sentence, he had already opened the door and peeked in. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. His brother Ce was on top of his sister. "Brother Ce, how could you hit sister?" Xiao Yunzhu's words came to an abrupt end as he ran in with his short legs. When she heard Xiao Yunzhu's voice, Yunjian jumped in fright. She hurriedly pushed Ce. At this moment, Xiao Yunzhu had already run to the side of the big bed. He walked over and cried, "Boo-hoo, brother Ce, please don't hit sister. Xiaozhu will be obedient. Brother Ce, please don't hit sister." When Xiao Yunzhu cried, Qin Yiru and Yunjian, who were downstairs, also burst into tears. At this moment, Ce immediately got up from Yunjian's body and covered Xiao Yunzhu's eyes. Yunjian used this time to quickly put on the clothes that Ce had taken off and sat on the bed with a guilty conscience. Qin Yiru and Yunjian heard the commotion and ran upstairs. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Qin Yiru was so frightened that she threw away the TV remote control in her hand. When she heard Xiao Yunju's cries, she immediately ran upstairs as fast as she could. Gu Junjian also ran upstairs as fast as he could to Yunjian's bedroom. When he reached Yunjian's bedroom, Qin Yiru asked, "What's wrong? Xiaozhu, what's wrong?" When he reached the door, he saw Ce carrying Xiao Yunju in the room. Yunjian was sitting upright on the bed like a student who had been caught absent-mindedly by the teacher. When she saw Qin Yiru appear at the door, Yunjian smiled and said to Qin Yiru, "Mom, it's nothing. We were just playing a game with Xiaozhu." He cried when Xiaozhu lost. Yunjian then turned to look at Xiaozhu and said symbolically, "I told you that a man shouldn't cry. Xiaozhu, do you understand?" Yunjian had no choice but to use her brother as a shield. Xiao Yunju didn't know about this at all. He only knew that Ce was biting his sister. The teacher said that biting meant hitting, so Xiao Yunju told him the truth. "No, Jie, you're lying." Xiaozhu was sleeping and suddenly remembered that Xiaozhu had something to tell Jie, so Xiaozhu came to Jie's room and saw Sigij hitting Jie. You hit Xiao Jian?" Qin Yiru was shocked. Chapter 633. Little Yunju's self-righteous words stunned Qin Yiru, who was rooted to the spot in bewilderment. Yunjian wanted to facepalm and sigh. Xiao Yunju, on the other hand, had no idea that he had said something wrong. Instead, he complained even more vigorously, "Mama Qin, Sigij is mean." As he spoke, Xiao Yunju struggled out of Siyi's embrace and ran to Yunjian to grab Yunjian's hand. He looked at Yunjian with his chubby cheeks and told Yunjian, "Jie, does it hurt? Sigij is mean. I'll hit him for you." As he spoke, Xiao Yunju ran to Ce and patted Ce's sleeve softly before running to Yunjian to tell her, "Hehe Jie, Sigij was hit by Xiaozhu. It doesn't hurt." Xiao Yunju broke into a bright grin as he spoke. Qin Yiru, who stood at the door and did not enter the house, was completely dumbfounded. She had just snapped out of the joy of Yunjian agreeing to her marriage with Gu Junjian when she heard this all of a sudden. And Xiao Jian, how could this be? Qin Yiru stared at the scene in shock, unable to snap out of her panic for a long time. Gu Junjian, who stood beside Qin Yiru, knew about Ce and Yunjian's situation and could only sigh with a hand on his forehead. How could Xiaozhu be so good at making things happen? She was actually able to tell the whole story so quickly. Perhaps Xiao Yunju felt that he was not strong enough, so he asked innocently, "Jie, why aren't you saying anything? Did Xiaozhu not hurt Sigij?" But the teacher said it's not good to bite. Sigij can bite Jie, but Xiaozhu can't bite Sigij. The teacher said that biting is a bad child and needs to be spanked. Xiaozhu's innocent words made Yunjian feel even more awkward. Being grabbed by Qin Yiru, all of a sudden Yunjian was caught off guard. Yunjian had learned how to kill and how to kill someone with a single blow. She had also learned medical skills and hacking, but she had never learned how to handle such a situation. Cough. "Xiaozhu, come out. Uncle will accompany you to sleep." Gu Junjian knew that it would be terrible if the situation continued. If Xiao Yunju said anything else, Qin Yiru would probably overthink. Therefore, Gu could only take Xiao Yunju away first. "What? Uncle Gu, Xiaozhu won't leave. If Xiaozhu leaves, what will happen if Sigij bullies Jie?" Xiao Yunju pouted and frowned. His expression was uglier than anyone else's. It was as if Ce had really bullied Yunjian. "With your mother here, your Sigij won't bully your Jie." Gu Junjian was speechless. He looked at Xiao Yunju and waved at Xiao Yunju again. "But..." Xiao Yunju turned his tender face to Yunjian. Seeing that Yunjian seemed fine, he nodded and walked over to Gu Junjian. "All right." When he walked over to Gu Junjian, Xiao Yunju couldn't help but turn to Qin Yiru and say, "Mother Qin, don't let Sigij bully Jie. Jie will be in pain. Xiaozhu will go to sleep first." With that, Xiao Yunju rubbed his eyes. At this moment, Xiao Yunju was carried by Gu Junjian. Chapter 634. Qin Yiru watched in a daze as Gu Junjian brought Xiao Yunju back to his room to sleep. It was only then that Qin Yiru shifted her gaze back to Yunjian and Ce. Looking at Ce and Yunjian, she opened her mouth and finally uttered, "Come out with me." Qin Yiru spoke in a serious tone when she said that. Her stern tone made Yunjian's eyelids twitch. She had never heard Qin Yiru speak to anyone in such a serious tone. After all, Qin Yiru had always presented herself as meek. It was not that Qin Yiru could only present herself as meek. It was just that Yunjian was not used to her being so stern all of a sudden. In spite of it, Yunjian followed her out as well. Ce's tall frame trailed behind Yunjian. He did not utter a word facing Qin Yiru. If it were not for Qin Yiru, Yunjian's mother, he would never have followed her so obediently. Who was he? Lung Pavilion's young master, the leader of an Hun group. No matter which identity he had, it was enough to shock the entire world. Today, however, he listened to Qin Yiru obediently and followed her downstairs. Come over here, stand here. Qin Yiru frowned, a rare sense of unease evident on her face. Yunjian could not help gulping as well. Xiaojian is my child. She's an obedient child. I've always thought that you're an upright child, but you've disappointed me so much. Qin Yiru looked at Ce as she spoke to Ce, looking uneasy. To Qin Yiru, her daughter and son were her life. She was even willing to exchange her own life for the lives of her daughter and son. Qin Yiru instantly understood what Xiao Yunju said just now, as Ce had forced Yunjian, which was why she spoke to Ce so earnestly. Auntie, Ce spoke, but before he could finish, he was interrupted by Qin Yiru. Other than Yunjian, the only person who dared to interrupt Ce was Qin Yiru, whom Yunjian cared about. Qin Yiru had no idea that if she was not Yunjian's birth mother, she would not even be standing here lecturing Ce. Right now, the young master of Cold Pavilion, the leader of an Hun group, was standing in front of Qin Yiru and being taught a lesson by Qin Yiru as an elder. Don't say it yet. Qin Yiru called out before she continued, I've already told you everything. Auntie likes you a lot, child, but how could you do this to Xiao Jian? What if you get Xiao Jian pregnant? What are we going to do? Xiao Jian is still a virgin. Qin Yiru's tears were about to fall as she spoke. She tugged at Yunjian's hand as the misunderstanding deepened. Xiao Jian, let's go. We're leaving today. We can't stay in this house anymore. I'll take you away. Qin Yiru thought that Yunjian had been eaten by Ce. As she spoke, Qin Yiru was about to pull Yunjian upstairs. Qin Yiru was filled with regret. She had always thought that Ce was an obedient child. She did not expect him to do something like this. Or Xiao Jian. How could this happen? Qin Yiru felt deeply moved, like she was living under someone else's roof. She hated herself. She shouldn't have come here and sent her daughter into the wolf's mouth. Once she thought about how this was not the first time Ce had done something so overboard to Xiao Jian, Qin Yiru was so angry that she could barely breathe. Chapter 635. Qin Yiru thought that Xiao Jian was being forced and was not willing, so she had the urge to run away with her daughter when it came to Ce. Mom? Yunjian was shocked by Qin Yiru's emotional outburst as well. To Yunjian, Qin Yiru had always been an amiable person. She did not expect Qin Yiru to go this far for her. Just as Qin Yiru was about to drag Yunjian up to the second floor to pack her luggage and leave, she pulled Yunjian up the stairs before she could explain herself. Ce was currently standing on the flat ground on the first floor. With long strides, he reached the stairs in 2 steps and grabbed the railing of the stairs with his large, well-defined palm before stepping lightly on the ground with 1 foot. In the next second, he leaped to the 5th step of the stairs from the flat ground, blocking Qin Yiru, who was about to run up the stairs. Auntie, Ce called out softly. Qin Yiru was obviously fuming, but she could not bring herself to throw a tantrum at Ce. After all, the child treated Xiao Yunju, Yunjian and their family well. Moreover, after spending so many days together, humans were sentimental creatures. To Qin Yiru, she treated Ce as her own child. Qin Yiru also knew that Ce did not have a mother since he was young. It was said that he came from a wealthy family. Qin Yiru did not know much about it, but Qin Yiru heard from Dong Ruan that Ce's father had never treated him like his own child. Therefore, all this while, Qin Yiru truly treated Ce as her own child and doted on him. Qin Yiru was indeed fuming just now, which was why she pulled Yunjian away without waiting for Ce to speak. Qin Yiru's anger had subsided quite a bit now. Although she planned to listen to Ce, Qin Yiru still turned her head away. Auntie, I'm sincere to Xiao Jian. If there's any falsehood in what I'm saying now, you can kill me right now. Ce's words were shocking. As he spoke, he even took out the silver pistol on his belt and passed it to Qin Yiru. When Ce said that, his deep eyes shone with sincerity. Qin Yiru's expression softened slightly. It's not that I don't agree with you guys being together. You said that you're sincere to Xiao Jian, but what about Xiao Jian? How can you force her? Qin Yiru said with a frown. This was the real reason why Qin Yiru was angry. It was not that Qin Yiru disliked Ce, nor was she against it. Qin Yiru had completely misunderstood. She thought that Ce had forced Yunjian to do a lot of things that she should not have done already. Qin Yiru thought that Ce had already started to grope her daughter before she knew it. This was what infuriated Qin Yiru the most. As a mother, how could she feel good when she saw this? Of course, if Yunjian was willing, Qin Yiru was a different story. Qin Yiru was not against puppy love. Forced? Ce frowned. He had passed his gun to Qin Yiru without a trace. Qin Yiru, on the other hand, did not even notice why Ce had a gun. Chapter 636. It was awkward to say it, but Yun Jian said it anyway. Yun Jian knew that if she did not say it, Qin Yiru's misunderstanding of Ce would probably worsen. Huh. Qin Yiru froze on the spot when she heard what Yun Jian said and looked at Yun Jian. Qin Yiru was completely dumbfounded after that. From the beginning, Qin Yiru thought that it was Ce who forced Yun Jian to say those things. Now, however, she was told that her assumption was wrong. Did Xiao Jian do it willingly? What? Qin Yiru swallowed hard and turned to look at Yun Jian in disbelief, her gaze filled with realization and shock. Xiao Jian, what did you say? Willingly? Did she blame Ce wrongly just now? Qin Yiru continued. Mom, I didn't tell you before. He didn't force me, so you misunderstood. Since she had said it, Yun Jian told her everything. This. Qin Yiru widened her eyes in shock after she heard what Yun Jian said. Her daughter had been with Ce for so long right under her nose? I think I came out at the wrong time? While Qin Yiru was at a loss for words from her shock, Gu Yunjian's voice came from the staircase on the second floor. Qin Yiru was feeling awkward as well. After all, she had misunderstood Ce. Gu Yunjian's appearance eased Qin Yiru's awkwardness a little. Is Xiao Zhu asleep? Qin Yiru changed the topic immediately. He's already asleep. Xiao Zhu's a good boy, Gu Junjian said and came down the stairs. Taking in the atmosphere, Gu Junjian asked with a faint smile, how's it going? If Gu Junjian were to ask his impression of Ce, he had a good impression of Ce. With Gu Yunjian's question, he brought the topic back to the original topic. Qin Yiru coughed awkwardly and turned her gaze to Ce and Yun Jian again. She did not notice what she was holding, Ce's silver pistol. Gu Junjian was shocked when he saw the gun as well. He took the silver pistol from Qin Yiru's hand without a trace. Then Gu Junjian draped his arm over Qin Yiru's shoulder. Qin Yiru shifted her gaze to Ce as well before looking at Yun Jian. She told Ce, to be honest, I quite like you too. I won't stop you from being with Xiao Jian, but she's still young, so don't do certain things if you don't have to. Qin Yiru was ashamed of herself toward the end. Of course, it was fine as long as everyone understood what she meant. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and promised in front of Qin Yiru, I'll protect Xiao Jian with my life. She's my everything now and she'll be my future. Although Ce did not make any earth-shattering vow in front of Qin Yiru, his words were heartwarming, like a quiet stream that flowed warmly and gave people a comforting sense of trust. Forget it. We're getting old. Think about your matters yourselves. I won't interfere. Qin Yiru was not an old-fashioned person, so she let it go. Chapter 637. Qin Yiru had actually gotten married and pregnant at an early age. Qin Yiru had dropped out of high school and disregarded Dong Ruan's advice, following Zhang Meihua's arrangement to marry Yun Gang. Qin Yiru regretted it a little after they got married, but she had always chosen to believe in Yun Gang, believing that he would treat her well. What she did not expect was that Yun Gang loved to gamble. Not only did he frequently go to the casino to gamble, he even stole money from home and became worse each time. It broke Qin Yiru's heart, but it did not directly cause the marriage to fail. What really caused the marriage to end was that Yun Gang cheated on her. Qin Yiru could not believe it at first. She actually trusted Yun Gang, but she did not expect Yun Gang to really have a mistress behind her back. It was only when the mistress came to her that Qin Yiru realized her mistake. She should have divorced Yun Gang a long time ago, but she did not. Qin Yiru's mother-in-law, Lu Lanhua, even lectured her in front of her, saying, "Which man doesn't cheat?" At that moment, Qin Yiru was truly enraged, but she was a timid person. She still divorced Yun Gang with Xiao Jian's help. After going through such a complicated marriage that dragged her down for half her life, Qin Yiru finally saw through it. At the same time, Qin Yiru was determined not to stop her Xiao Jian if she could find someone she liked. When she found out that the person was Ce, Qin Yiru was quite fond of him too. Ce was handsome, but that was secondary. Most importantly, he had a good character. To Qin Yiru, it did not matter how he looked as long as he treated Xiao Jian well. Ce was undoubtedly the best candidate. Moreover, Yun Jian and Ce were in love with each other now. When she heard what Qin Yiru said, Yun Jian, who stood on the stairs, took a step back, nearly missing her footing. Qin Yiru actually said that she would raise their child for them if she got pregnant? That was not the problem though. Yun Jian realized that Qin Yiru had deeply misunderstood her and Ce. Mom? Yun Jian was about to speak, but Qin Yiru stopped her. Xiao Jian, I know you're a big girl now and you know how to be shy. I won't tease you anymore. Alright, go back and rest too. Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian went downstairs and sat on the sofa to watch TV together. Only Yunjian and Ce were left standing where they were. A second later, Ce reached out to hold Yunjian's hand swiftly. Holding Yunjian's hand softly, he walked up the stairs. When Yunjian was not looking, his lips curled into a smile that was eye-catching. This time, Ce did not go to Yunjian's room. Holding Yunjian's hand, he went straight to his own room. Applying what one had learned was an effective way to apply it to Ce. When Yunjian reached her room and was about to go in, Ce had already pulled her hand and turned to enter his room. You. Yunjian's soft voice was completely blocked behind the door. Once they entered the room, Ce held her hand and led her to the bed. It was Yunjian's first time entering Ce's bedroom. She looked around and saw that the room was decorated in navy blue. It looked rather simple. There was only a big bed in front of them and a long and wide desk beside it. Other than that, there was nothing else. Chapter 638. Ce hugged her from behind and Yunjian shivered once again. Ce's embrace was very warm. His embrace carried the warmth of a man, and Yunjian's body curled up tightly. Ce made sure to lock the door this time in order to prevent the previous awkward situation from happening again. He hugged her and threw himself onto the big bed. Falling onto Ce's big bed, Yunjian seemed to smell Ce's unique fragrance. It was a faint but pleasant scent. You. Yunjian was halfway through her sentence when Ce flipped over and hugged Yunjian's slender waist. Sleep. Ce spoke softly. His magnetic voice was like the soft spring rain, giving people a cool and soothing sense of tranquility. Okay. Seeing that Ce was silent, Yunjian spoke up. After that, Ce fell silent. Yunjian lay in Ce's arms, and it was so quiet that she could hear his breathing. Yunjian closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, the scorching sun rose from the east. Although it was a cold winter, it was a new day and there were already signs of spring coming. When Yunjian woke up, Ce was sitting beside her, watching her. She immediately sat up. After brushing her teeth and washing her face, Yunjian tied her hair into a high ponytail and walked out of the room with Ce. At this moment, Yunjian was wearing a simple set of loose sportswear. She had specially bought this outfit for her morning run. Ce was wearing a white sweater with a black jacket over it. This black jacket accentuated his tall and slender figure. Yunjian and Ce went downstairs together and planned to go for a morning run. As soon as they walked out of the villa, Yunjian and Ce's attention was drawn to the military jeep parked at the entrance. When they turned to look, they saw Yunjian sitting in the car. He was waving at Yunjian and Ce. Thinking that there was another mission from the military, Yunjian walked over with a lift of her legs. Who knew that Yunjian was waving at Ce? Although Yunjian and Qin Yiru had confirmed their relationship, it was not appropriate for him to stay in the villa for the night. After all, this was Dong Ruan's house. This was different from Zhang Meihua's house. Actually, even if Dong Ruan knew that Yunjian was staying here, she would not do anything about it. However, Qin Yiru felt that it was inappropriate. Officer Gu, what's wrong? Yunjian asked suspiciously when she saw Yunjian waving at Ce. Look at this. It's yours, isn't it? Yunjian asked. He was still sitting in the military jeep with the windows down. Yunjian took out Ce's silver pistol and told Ce. Ce reached out to take the silver pistol from Yunjian. Hey, why did you give the gun to Yiru yesterday? Weren't you afraid that it would go off accidentally? Also, we don't allow guns here. You better hide it well, don't let anyone see it. After Yunjian said that to Ce, he laughed heartily and honked the car horn. He then drove off after saying goodbye. He was here to return Ce's pistol. Yunjian was stunned. She did not bring a pistol with her when she was out on a mission. There was not much time to use a gun in the military. As for the butterfly knife, Yunjian always carried it with her. Chapter 639. When Yunjian and Ce returned home from their morning run, Yunjian was already sweating profusely, but she didn't seem to be out of breath at all. It was normal for her to sweat. Ce's physical fitness was obviously much better than Yunjian's. After he finished his run, there were only a few drops of sweat on his forehead. There was no trace of his morning run at all. It was time for breakfast when they arrived home. Yunjian, who had gone to the army, was also sitting at the big dining table. There were several bowls of porridge on the table. Other than Yunyi's portion, everyone had a portion. There was also a small bowl of pickled mustard beside each bowl of porridge. Yunjian was already hungry, so she walked over with Ce. Xiaozhu, are you done? We can eat now. Qin Yiru shouted towards the bathroom. Xiao Yunzhu immediately responded, Mother Qin, I'm coming. As he spoke, Xiao Yunju had already washed his hands and was skipping out of the bathroom. Sister, brother Ce. Seeing Yunjian and Ce, Xiao Yunju shouted happily. Children didn't deliberately remember things. Xiao Yunju had already forgotten everything that had happened yesterday. At this moment, Xiao Yunju had even forgotten that Ce had hit Yunjian yesterday. He was already skipping over to Ce. Ce naturally wouldn't argue with Xiao Yunju about what had happened yesterday. Xiao Yunju had simply unconsciously told the truth. Moreover, after what he had said yesterday, Ce's wish had been fulfilled. After all, he had gained Qin Yiru's approval, so he didn't have to be sneaky with Yunjian anymore. He could boldly lay his hands on his woman now. After being caressed by Ce, Ce reached out and stroked Xiao Yunju's short hair. Xiao Yunju skipped back to his seat. He picked up his small bowl of porridge and blew at it. Then he poured some pickled vegetables into the porridge and swallowed them down. Xiao Zhu's school reopens the day after tomorrow. Due to the weather last semester, they didn't have a parent-child sports day. The school's notice says that they'll have a parent-child sports day as soon as school reopens. Xiao Jian, since you're reopening the day after tomorrow and I'll be at work by then, since you're home, Xiao Jian, you two can take part in Xiao Zhu's parent-child sports day on my behalf. Qin Yiru drank a mouthful of porridge and said to Yunjian and Ce. In fact, Xiao Yunju had already told Yunjian and Ce about it yesterday. Xiao Yunju was still sleeping in his room when he suddenly remembered it and rushed to Ce's room. However, he did not find her. It was only later that he went to Yunjian's room and saw Ce hitting his sister once he entered. He was so scared that he forgot his initial goal. Parent-child sports day? Yunjian narrowed her eyes and took a sip of porridge with a spoon before turning to Qin Yiru and asking with a raised brow. Yeah, it's a sports day for parents and children. Parents compete against each other and children compete against each other. It's an entertainment event, Qin Yiru answered with a nod. Schools nowadays put in a lot of effort for children's health. Events like the Parent-Child Sports Day were held to allow children and parents to get closer to each other. Jia, let's go, let's go. Xiao Yunju whined to Yunjian. Okay. Yunjian nodded with a smile. Chapter 640. Let your sister accompany you. I have to go out tomorrow and will only be back in a week. Although Ce couldn't bear to reject Xiao Yunju, he did have something to attend to and had no other choice. Xiao Yunju lowered his head and nodded dejectedly. Oh, I'll bring you some chocolates when I come back. Ce, on the other hand, smiled warmly. His smile was enchanting and it was hard not to like his handsome face. Is it the kind of chocolates you bring back from overseas? The kind that is as soft as water? Yeah. Xiao Zhu loves those chocolates the most. Brother Ce is the best. Xiao Yunju immediately recovered from his sadness. He even forgot about the incident where Ce hit Yunjian yesterday. Yunjian could only smile in her seat. Xiao Yunju didn't like to eat chocolates from China. Country Z's chocolates were usually hard, but imported chocolates were smooth and soft. They were not greasy and the taste was just right. Ce had brought some chocolates for Xiao Yunju when he came back from the Inhun organization. Xiao Yunju still couldn't forget the taste, so when he heard that brother Ce wanted to bring him some chocolates with that flavor, he was even happier. He was even happier than when brother Ce went to his school's sports day. Yeah, there's food. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye, the new year was over and the new year was about to begin. The students had just finished their long holidays and were about to return to school. Xiao Yunju started school one day earlier than Yunjian because the parent-child sports day hadn't been held last year. In order to celebrate the new year, the school held the parent-child sports day early in the morning. The purpose was to allow the children and their parents to interact more. Ce had already returned to Inhun organization. On Xiao Yunju's first day of school, Yunjian got up early in the morning. She was still wearing the cotton sportswear and her hair was tied up in a high ponytail. She looked very energetic. It was Monday, a new week. There were many cars parked in front of Wuxia Elementary School. Most of them were bicycles and there were also quite a number of motorcycles. However, there were only a few cars. In this era, people who owned cars would often drive their cars to the school gates to show off their wealth and pretentiousness. Yunjian walked to Wuxia Elementary School with Xiao Yunju. They didn't even take the bus. Yunjian simply wanted to help Xiao Yunju exercise. However, none of the students who came to Wuxia Elementary School walked to school these days. Yunjian was a special case. In addition, Yunjian's clothes were not very fashionable. Although it was a parent-child sports day, who else would wear sportswear other than Yunjian? Which female parent at the scene wasn't dressed up beautifully? The male parents were dressed neatly. They must have picked out the best clothes at home to wear. In a place like Wuxia Elementary School, if the school held an event to invite parents, most of the parents would dress up beautifully. Only Yunjian was wearing sportswear without a brand. She held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked to the door of Xiao Yunju's classroom. At the door of Class 1, Yunju ran into the classroom as soon as he reached it. Yunjian stood at the door and looked in through the corridor window. There were already many parents standing in the corridor, all of them dressed beautifully. Chapter 641. The parents who were dressed to the nines liked to group together and point fingers at others. Of course Yunjian did not mind. There was only one person who was concerned about Yunjian's whereabouts. There was a classmate in Xiao Yunju's class named Wang Ba who had framed Xiao Yunju for stealing his candy. Wang Ba had even asked his mother to seek justice from Yunjian. Xiao Yunju's class teacher had the surname Lu, and teacher Lu had helped Wang Ba to speak up against Xiao Yunju. They had only given up after checking the surveillance footage. Wang Ba's mother had asked her husband, Wang Wuguei, to flaunt his wealth to Yunjian. In the end, it was Ce and Zhang Jifan who was managing new crews on behalf of Yunjian who stepped in. Wang Ba's mother was so shocked that she was speechless. This time, Xiao Yunju's class was having a family sports day and Wang Ba's mother was there too. As for Wang Ba's father, Wang Wuguei, he could not come because the company had officially started work. Of course, Yunjian's appearance made Wang Ba's mother, who was flaunting to the parents in the corner who knew each other, pause. She was a little afraid of Yunjian's arrival. Back then, Yunjian had already scared Wang Ba's mother half to death when she swung her butterfly knife a few times. Especially when she found out that Yunjian was new cruise's director, Wang Ba's mother, who was standing in the corner, had already gulped a few times. Wang Ba's mother, what's wrong? Is there something over there? A woman in her 30s or 40s who was a full-time rich wife like Wang Ba's mother waved her hand in front of Wang Ba's mother, who was stunned. She was dressed like a young lady in her 20s. And nothing. Wang Ba's mother snapped back to her senses from Yunjian and shuddered. Yunjian was new cruise's director and she was here. She was here for the family sports day. Wang Ba's mother was reprimanded by her husband, Wang Wuguei. If she were to meet Yunjian in the future, she must not offend her. Wang Ba's mother was a little afraid now. Wang Ba's mother, you were looking at that little girl over there, right? I really don't know whose parent she is. She's dressed so shabbily, yet she still has the nerve to participate in the parent-child sports day. The woman in the fancy dress looked at Yunjian and complained. After that, the woman in the fancy dress glanced at Wang Ba's mother and asked, Wang Ba's mother, don't you think so? The woman's words made Wang Ba's mother shiver. What a joke. How could he say that the chairman of New Cruise was dressed shabbily? If she didn't know Yunjian's identity, Wang Ba's mother would have agreed with the woman in the fancy dress. But now she didn't dare to say anything. I'm going to the toilet. You guys talk. Wang Ba's mother found an excuse and hurried to the toilet. Coincidentally, she also avoided the topic. Really? You don't know what's good for you. Do you think you're so powerful? A woman in a fancy dress sneered as she walked towards Wang Ba's mother. By then Wang Ba's mother had already left. The woman in the fancy dress was called Ding Yin. She was the mother of one of Xiao Yunju's female classmates. At the same time, she was a stay-at-home wife like Wang Ba's mother. Chapter 642. A female parent like Ding Yin, who was dressed to the nines, naturally had to chat with other parents. Even without Wang Ba's mother, she could still find new companions and chat with them with similar interests. Yunjian was standing by the corridor outside Xiao Yunju's classroom window. She watched as Xiao Yunju sat neatly in the front row and listened to their homeroom teacher, Miss Lu. The new year had just started, so the homeroom teacher naturally had a lot to say. This meant that the parents present would have to wait for a while. It was already 8 in the morning when Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju to the classroom. It was 8:30 now. The teacher spoke for half an hour about the things to take note of when school reopens, including the collection of winter vacation homework. Xiao Yunju was well behaved throughout the winter vacation. He had already completed his homework, so he was rather confident when the teacher collected his homework. After collecting the homework, the teacher spoke a little more about school reopening before she stood on the podium in Xiao Yunju's classroom and announced the official start of the parent-child sports day. Xiao Yunju and the rest of his classmates cheered excitedly when they heard the announcement. For a moment, cheers like yay yay yay, and that's great filled the entire building. Wuxia Elementary School was a school that placed emphasis on the students' physical health. The school placed more emphasis on the interaction between parents and children. Therefore, the school often held activities like the parent-child sports day. Now, may the parents standing at the door please enter the classroom. I'll talk about the rules of the sports day. Miss Lu opened the classroom door and shouted at the parents in the corridor. Hearing the teacher's words, the parents in the corridor entered the classroom one after another and stood beside their children's seats. Once the parents entered the classroom immediately became noisy. The homeroom teacher, Miss Lu, stood on the podium and slammed the table as she shouted, "Quiet! Quiet down and listen to me." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a familiar figure. Yun Jian walked in from outside the classroom. She walked straight to Xiao Yunju's seat and stood not far from the podium. Looking at Yun Jian, Teacher Lu couldn't help but recall how she had misunderstood Yunju and helped Wang Ba to scold Yunju. Later he even went to Yunju's sister Yun Jian to badmouth Yunju. In the end, the misunderstanding was cleared up. It turned out that Wang Ba had bullied Yunju. And the way Yun Jian swung the butterfly knife in front of him. At the thought of this, Teacher Lu couldn't help but tremble. She actually came too. "Sister." Xiao Yunju shouted happily when he saw Yun Jian walking into the classroom. Then, he obediently folded his hands and placed them neatly on the desk as he watched the teacher speak. "Hehe, you're Yunju's sister? Hello big sister, you're so pretty." Sitting next to Yunju was a pretty little girl who looked like a doll. She praised Yun Jian when she saw her and giggled at the same time. "Thank you, you're pretty too." Yun Jian nodded slightly. "Big sister, I'm Yunju's desk mate. My name is Duan Li. Everyone calls me Chestnut. You can call me Chestnut too. Nice to meet you." The girl who called herself Duan Li introduced herself to Yun Jian politely. Chapter 643. Xiao Yunju turned around and looked at Duan Li happily. Of course. After that, no one spoke because Teacher Lu, who was standing on the podium, had already started speaking. "The competition will start at 9 o'clock sharp. I took a look at the students in our class. Basically, most of their parents have already arrived. If there are students whose parents have something to do and can't come, then stay in our class's sports field and don't run around." Teacher Lu had already started speaking. After pausing for a moment, she continued, "Only the first and second grade children will be participating in this sports meet. There are a total of 10 classes, and when the ranking comes out, it will be the total score of the first and second grades. This time, the parent-child sports meet will be ranked according to the score of each class. Of course, we'll also select the 3 students and their parents with the highest scores from the first and second grades. We'll also select the first, second, and third grades. When the time comes, we'll award the students with a certificate. Of course, it's more difficult to win among the students in the second grade, so we'll just have to try our best." Teacher Lu stood on the podium and arranged all the events and rules of the competition. The sports meet held by Wuning Elementary School was not targeted at the entire school. The third graders, including the third graders and above, were rather old. Therefore, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders would have other sports meets. Since Wuning Elementary School had better settings, it was dangerous for the first and second graders to participate in sports meets without their parents. With that in mind, the school purposely held a sports meet. In other words, the parents and children would participate in the sports meet together. Actually, most of the things that Ms. Lu said on the podium were ignored by both the parents and the students. Therefore, when it was 9 p.m. and the school broadcast the sports meet march, Ms. Lu clapped her hands and signaled the students to line up at the entrance. The parents followed the students all the way to the school field. Wuning Elementary School's field was a short distance away from the school building, but if they walked from here they would be able to walk around the surrounding buildings, so it was quite close. Wuning Elementary School's field was huge. It looked endless, but it was actually just a standard 400m track. Most schools did not have plastic tracks at this time. They had primitive gravel tracks. As for the circles around the field, they were surrounded by protruding cement stones. However, they would not trip when one stepped on them. These things were only used to allow runners to see the size of the field and where the bends began and ended. However, the running track was indeed a standard 400m track. It was measured by the people who built the track. Teacher Lu led the students to a corner of the field where the running track would not be blocked. The field was covered in grass. There was a light drizzle in the morning, so there was still some dew on the grass. Some parents saw their children about to sit on the grass, so they ran over to stop them. In their eyes, the lawn was very dirty. It had rained in the morning, so the ground was full of muddy water. Although it wasn't much, it would dirty their clothes. If her clothes got dirty, she would look even more inferior than others. Yun Jian went over and plopped down beside Yunju. Chapter 644. Yun Jian, who was sitting on the lawn, naturally heard Ding Yin's words. She just felt strange. She didn't seem to have offended anyone, did she? Yun Jian only treated Ding Yin's words as wind that went in one ear and out the other. It didn't affect her at all. "Sit down, children, sit down." Teacher Lu kept shouting, but the parents were indifferent. Some parents even pulled their children to prevent them from sitting on the lawn. There were no proper stools for them to sit on, but they had to sit on the lawn. In the eyes of some parents, this was a way to lower their status. Whether it was in this era or the modern era, there was a concept of wealth. Some people made friends not for friendship but for money. Of course, there were people who made real friends, but it wasn't common. Ding Yin was holding a little girl in a doll costume. Although the little girl's appearance wasn't bad, she was as vain as Ding Yin. Her head was full of little braids. Isn't that so? How come the school nowadays dares to accept just anyone? Standing beside Ding Yin, a woman who was also holding a little girl in her hand said to Ding Yin with a flirtatious tone. This woman was actually the same age as Ding Yin, but she looked much older. After all, Ding Yin wasn't bad looking, but compared to Yun Jian, Ding Yin's appearance was probably a lot worse. This woman flirted with Ding Yin because she knew Ding Yin, and Ding Yin's husband was her superior. Even if it was a flirtatious tone, Ding Yin felt very good. Not long after Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju sat down, Duanli walked over with her slender short legs. She also sat directly next to Xiao Yunju and said to Yun Jian, "Little sister, I have nowhere to go. Can I join you?" "Sure, sit down. My sister is very nice." Before Yun Jian could say anything, Xiao Yunju took the initiative to invite Duanli to sit next to him. Children were the most enthusiastic when they played with each other. Soon Xiao Yunju and Duanli started chatting. Yun Jian didn't think it was a bad idea. After all, children were the best companions in terms of age. "Yunju, I really envy you. You have such a nice sister." Duanli pouted. She held a small wooden stick in her hand and slid it on the ground. "My sister is really good to me, and so is brother Ce, mother Qin, Uncle Gu. They're all very, very good to me. Alright, if there's a chance next time, I'll definitely let you meet my big brother Ce." Xiao Yunju said happily. Sure. Duanli let out a big grin when she heard that. Students who are not accompanied by their parents, please do not leave your sports field. Now, students who are accompanied by their parents, please follow your parents to line up here. The sports meet is about to begin. Teacher Lu stood up and clapped her hands as she spoke to the students. "Chestnut, let's go line up," Xiao Yunju said as he stood up. Yun Jian also stood up. Duanli sat on the grass. When she heard Xiao Yunju's words, she suddenly lowered her head. At this moment, Yun Jian suddenly realized that Duanli didn't have any parents accompanying her. "My dad, he won't come." Duanli lowered her head. She forced herself to raise her head and said to Xiao Yunju, "You guys go. I'll be here cheering for you." Xiao Yunju was silent for 2 seconds. Although he was also a child, he could feel something. Chapter 645. What about you, Yunju? Duanli was overjoyed, but then she thought about what would happen to Yunju if his sister went with her. "I'm a man, it's okay if I don't go. You go. Chestnut, I'll cheer for you at the finish line." Xiao Yunju looked at Duanli and said generously. But Duanli's doll-like eyes were about to burst into tears. She was touched, but she didn't dare to accept it. "It's okay, little Zhu has grown up. It's the same if I go with you." Yun Jian couldn't help but rub Duanli's head. She had to admit that even though it was her first time meeting Duanli, she was filled with joy. Thank you, Yunju, and thank you too, big sister." Duanli rubbed her eyes that were about to burst into tears. She accepted the kindness happily. For Duanli, she hadn't had any parental love since kindergarten. Her mother had passed away, and her father was an alcoholic who drank every day. She also had a 6-year-old sister who was in kindergarten. Therefore, Duanli had been very obedient since she was young, because she had to take care of her sister. However, her father liked to beat her and her sister whenever he drank. Little Duanli had never experienced a father's love. She was only 7 or 8 years old, but she was very obedient and took care of her sister. Sometimes her father would beat her half to death when he was drunk. As for the school activities that required parents to come, Duanli's father never attended, so she didn't ask for it. If it weren't for the relevant department forcing Duanli's father to send Duanli back to school, Duanli wouldn't be here now. Therefore, when Xiao Yunju said that he would give his sister to her and let his sister accompany her to the competition, Duanli was very eager but didn't dare to accept his kindness. However, under the persuasion of Xiao Yunju and Yun Jian, Duanli accepted Yun Jian's kindness. "Little Zhu, tell the teacher that I'm going to the washroom. Your sister Lan Su is nearby. I'll make a call to see if your sister Lan Su can rush over." Yun Jian suddenly remembered that Lan Su lived near Wanningi Elementary School, so she spoke to Xiao Yunju. Is Sister Lan Su nearby? Could he make it in time? If Sister Lan Su comes, then you can go with Chestnut and Sister Lan Su can go with me. In that case, both of us can take part in the sports meeting. Xiao Yunju said to Yun Jian with his round eyes. Yes. Yun Jian nodded and patted Yunju's head. She instructed Yunju and Duanli to stay where they were and not run away while she walked towards the washroom. The reason why he went to the toilet was because he thought that if he made a phone call in the noisy sports field, the sound of the phone would probably be covered. After all, phones in this era weren't as convenient as modern phones. After making the call in the washroom and washing her hands, Yun Jian came out of the washroom and saw Xiao Yunju waving at her from afar. Sister, the sports meeting is going to start soon. Is Sister Lan Su coming? Xiao Yunju asked urgently. In fact, Xiao Yunju also wanted to take part in the competition. She should take around 10 minutes to get here, Yun Jian said, then added, there's still time. At this moment, Ding Yin's child, who was standing in the distance, walked over while Ding Yin was chatting with the other parents. It was this fashionable little girl with many small braids on her head. Chapter 646. The girl was Ding Yin's daughter, Tianpei. Tianpei was just like Ding Yin, snobbish since young. In Class 1, which was Yunju's class, Wang Ba's family was the only one who was better off than Yunju's. Tianpei had been taught by Ding Yin to play with the kids from rich families since she was young. Otherwise she would not have pretty clothes to wear or pretty braids to tie. Tianpei was scared, so she listened to her mother's words and played with the other students in her class who had good grades. Wang Ba loved to brag, so Tianpei had been on good terms with him since young. Before Wang Ba snatched Xiao Yunju's candy, Tianpei had been helping him bully Xiao Yunju in all sorts of ways. After Wang Ba snatched Xiao Yunju's candy, Ms. Lu went to Yun Jian to criticize Yunju. Wang Ba's mother also scolded Yunju in front of Yun Jian. In the end, they found out from the surveillance that Wang Ba had lied. After being threatened by Yun Jian, Wang Ba realized that even his mother was not helping him. Wang Ba did not know what it meant to be the chairman of new crews. Kids at his age had fewer concerns, only knowing that he was being bullied. Therefore Wang Ba joined forces with a group of kids to mock Xiao Yunju from time to time. Tianpei was the one who helped Wang Ba to bully Xiao Yunju. However, Xiao Yunju was not a pushover. After being scolded for a long time, Xiao Yunju did not take their words seriously. However, this time Tianpei came over directly to scold Yun Jian. This girl who was dressed rather prettily was speaking so blatantly to her younger brother the moment she came to her. Was she not exposing Yunju's shortcomings? Yun Jian immediately shielded Xiao Yunju and Duanli behind her. She then glared at Tianpei coldly and said, "Get lost." Yun Jian did not want to say a single word more to him. As the saying went, like parents like children. Yun Jian had never been the kind of person who liked to meddle in other people's business, but she couldn't stand by and watch her people bully her brother. Yunju was her younger brother whom she had finally found after much difficulty. He meant a lot to her, so she would not allow anyone to bully him. You shameless woman. You're the one who bullied Wang Ba. He's already told me. Just you wait. Mom and I will definitely win the competition later. When the time comes, I'll be waiting for you to cry and beg us. Tianpei was really shocked by Yun Jian. However, Tianpei was a little girl with a lot of guts. She came back this time purely to show off her power to Yun Jian. As soon as she finished speaking, Tianpei was so frightened that she ran back into her mother's arms. Yun Jian just thought it was ridiculous. Sister, don't be angry. Just pretend that they don't exist. Xiao Yunju reached out and pulled Yun Jian's sleeve. Sister isn't angry. Yun Jian's mood improved slightly when she saw Xiao Yunju. Just as Xiao Yunju was obediently letting Yun Jian stroke his head, he suddenly pointed at the entrance of the field and exclaimed, Sister, isn't that brother Adam? Yun Jian turned her head and saw that Adam, who was wearing a cool black top and denim pants, had also seen them and was walking over. Yun Jian was a little surprised. Adam walked up to Yun Jian quietly and said to Yun Jian softly, Young madam, young master asked me to come over. He can't leave right now, so he asked me to come over and listen to your instructions. Ce couldn't come over herself, so she asked Adam to come over and see if he could help. Ding Yin, who was watching from afar, watched the handsome Adam walk up to Yun Jian. She was still wondering how Yun Jian knew this seemingly rich Adam when another young girl rushed in from the entrance of the field. This young woman's clothes were conservative, but her hair was scattered around her head. Chapter 647. Lan Su went around Adam to stand in front of Yun Jian. Lan Su was tall to begin with. She was half a head taller than Yun Jian, about 1.7 meters tall. Lan Su was dressed in black from head to toe, exuding an indescribable sense of beauty. Yun Jian's beauty was different from Lan Su's. Lan Su was tall with a hint of coolness while Yun Jian was delicate and delicate. If one were to compare them closely, Yun Jian's beauty seemed to be a cut above Lan Su's. Lan Su stood in front of Adam, blocking his gaze to Yun Jian. Adam was 1.8 meters tall. He wasn't considered short among men, but because Lan Su was rather tall, she happened to block Adam's view. Adam, who stood behind Lan Su, wondered, where did this woman come from? Adam, on the other hand, only needed to follow Yun Jian's instructions. Yun Jian explained to Lan Su that she was sent here to participate in the parent-child sports day. Yun Jian also asked Lan Su to bring Xiao Yunju to the competition while she went with Duan Li. In fact, Yun Jian did not expect Adam to be sent here by Ce. Young mistress, let me take her place in Xiao Zhu's sports day, Adam stood up and said to Yun Jian. He was referring to Lan Su. Adam and Mo Sen had been in Longmen City for some time. When Ce was in Longmen City they were here as well. Adam and Mo Sen knew Xiao Yunju as well. When Xiao Yunju was not in school, it was Adam and Mo Sen who played with Xiao Yunju. It was hard to imagine, but it was the truth. Okay. If Ce Gij can't join the competition, Adam Gij can join me. Xiao Yunju was not close to Lan Su, so Xiao Yunju was on Adam's side. Yun Jian thought it was a good idea. Lan Su was from Yulong mainland after all, and Lan Su had never participated in such a competition before. After all, to Lan Su, everything in this world was new and interesting. Since Adam could bring Xiao Yunju to the competition, there was no difference between a man and a woman. That's great, Chestnut. Both of us can join the sports day. Xiao Yunju turned to tell Duan Li happily. Thank you, Yunju. Duan Li was delighted as well. Teacher Lu, who was gathering the crowd from afar, shouted again, Yunju's parents, please bring your classmates and line up here, our first event to toe. Teacher Lu shouted from afar. Lan Su stood in place and said to Yun Jian, I'll wait for you here. Yun Jian nodded and pulled the two lively children Xiao Yunju and Duan Li towards the teachers. Adam glanced at Lan Su with a squint from the side before he went to Yun Jian. The first event was a competition of physical strength, commonly known as running. However, the events of the parent-child race were different. Usually, people ran straight away. The rule of the first event was that parents had to run with their children. Xiao Yunju's class was in the first grade. There were 5 classes in the first grade. The number of parents in each class was not large. Most of the parents could not participate in the parent-child sports day because of work. Xiao Yunju's class had basically all the parents in the class. This was a special case. The first event was for parents to carry their children and run 400 meters back to the finish line as soon as the whistle sounded. All the parents in the first grade from the 5 classes ran together. The final ranking was announced. When all the parents in the first grade stood at the starting point and carried their children, they were a little nervous. After all, they had graduated for so many years and had not exercised like they did when they were students for a long time. Only Yun Jian was carrying Duan Li and Adam was carrying Xiao Yunju. They were not nervous at all. Chapter 648. In front of a group of rich ladies, Ding Yin was considered a respectable person. Even Wang Ba's mother was not as respectable as her. Ding Yin's husband was a high-ranking official, so it was very useful for these rich ladies to make friends with Ding Yin. Therefore, Ding Yin was quite confident in front of a group of rich ladies. Being praised by the rich lady next to her, even a group of parents who didn't know her turned to look at Ding Yin. Ding Yin was even more confident, but she looked at Yun Jian with disdain. Then Ding Yin replied confidently, as if she didn't treat the rich lady who was trying to be nice to her as a human being. It's okay. It's a marathon. Isn't it all about perseverance? The 400-meter dash is different. It requires physical strength to sprint all the way. What Ding Yin said was true, but the way she said it made the people around her unhappy. However, no one bothered to argue with Ding Yin or talk to her again. Of course, they didn't exclude the rich lady from just now. The rich lady who spoke just now obviously wanted to curry favor with Ding Yin, so she said again, I can't even carry a child. So I can't even run anymore. Now that I'm carrying a child, I can't even run anymore. But for a competition like this, I don't want to be ranked. Ding Yin, I think you can do it. Don't you work out in that gym every day? I think there's no doubt that you'll be the first place today. I guarantee it'll be you. The rich lady simply wanted to curry favor with Ding Yin, so she told her that Ding Yin worked out in the gym. Parents in this era liked to compare themselves. And in this era where the average income was not particularly high, people who could spend money to work out in the gym were symbols of the rich. It's my first time running with a child in my arms, but it's more than enough for me to compete with ordinary people. Ding Yin smiled slightly. She didn't have the slightest bit of modesty. Instead, she had the intention to show off. Most of the people present were disgusted by her words. Even the rich lady didn't say anything after that. The 400-meter dash was more tiring than the 800-meter dash because the 400-meter dash was considered a sprint. A 400-meter dash required sprinting all the way. Even a normal 400-meter dash was very tiring, let alone carrying a child. Of course, the school did not require speed. Everyone present was a parent, and it was entirely up to them whether they wanted to run fast or slow. Of course, there was no lack of male parents who insisted on driving the whole team to speed up in order to show off. Parents, please get ready. When the whistle blows, the competition will begin. A teacher standing at the front of the group whistled and waited for the parents to quiet down before speaking up. At this time, every parent and the child in their arms had a sports number tag hanging on their chest. Hearing the referee's words, the parents standing in place became a little nervous. Yun Jian was carrying Duan Li, Adam was carrying Xiao Yunju, and Adam was standing at the side. At this moment, Yun Jian and Adam didn't even have the slightest bit of fear in their hearts. Although Ding Yin spoke well, she was still very flustered in her heart. Everyone get ready. As soon as the referee blew the whistle, the parents standing at the starting line rushed out with their children in their arms. In fact, such an event was quite interesting in everyone's eyes. Therefore, under the tense atmosphere, everyone ran with all their might. The 400-meter dash wasn't suitable for jogging at the beginning. Therefore, all the parents strode forward with all their might. Ding Yin rushed to the front with her daughter, Tianpei, in her arms. She was smug that she ran faster than some of the male parents. But in the next second, Ding Yin suddenly felt a figure overtake her like a bolt of lightning, rushing forward as fast as the wind. The teachers who were watching from the starting line were also shocked by the thin figure who suddenly overtook everyone and ran at the front. Chapter 649. Mom, they overtook us. Run. Hurry. After being overtaken by Yun Jian, Ding Yin's daughter, Tianpei, couldn't accept it. Tianpei buried herself in her mother's arms and struggled with all her might. Ding Yin herself wasn't convinced either. Hence, without Tianpei's reminder, Ding Yin ran with all her might. However, the more she ran, the more strenuous it became. The further she ran, the greater the gravity on her feet. Before Ding Yin could regain her senses, another figure overtook her. Adam didn't run with all his might at first. He was carrying Xiao Yunju, so it could be considered easy. However, after Adam overtook Ding Yin, he began to chase after Yun Jian. However, Adam didn't dare to overtake Yun Jian. He only followed behind Yun Jian. What a joke. If the news of him overtaking young Madam were to spread to his young master one day, he would be killed. Moreover, if Adam really wanted to overtake Yun Jian, he felt that he couldn't because Yun Jian's running speed was abnormally fast. The sun shone down diagonally. The morning sunlight was very abundant. However, this 400-meter track seemed to be opened only for Yun Jian and Adam. Ding Yin ran with more and more difficulty. She gradually slowed down. Although she worked out in the gym all year round, Ding Yin's physical strength didn't increase. She might be a little stronger than some male parents, but her physical strength couldn't compare to Yun Jian and Adam. Seeing that Adam overtook her with Yun Zhu in his arms, Tianpei's missy temper immediately flared up. Ever since she was young, she had everything. She could get whatever she wanted. There was never anything that Tianpei couldn't get. Moreover, after playing with Wang Ba for a long time, their personalities were more similar. Tianpei started to throw a tantrum when she saw Adam carrying Xiao Yunju and easily catching up to Yun Jian. Tianpei was held in Ding Yin's arms. She struggled desperately and cried, "No, I don't want to, I want to be first, I want don't want to be overtaken by Yunju. I don't want to. Mom, hurry up, hurry up." As she spoke, Tianpei used her sharp fingernails to grab Ding Yin's clothes. Ding Yin had been bragging at the beginning, but now that she had been surpassed by Yun Jian and Adam, her mood was already very complicated. In the end, when Tianpei made such a fuss in her arms, Ding Yin's mood immediately worsened. "Tianpei, stop right there. Stop messing around." Ding Yin immediately roared at Tianpei. Tianpei, who was startled by the roar, started to make a scene even more fiercely. Tianpei had the personality of a rich young lady. At the same time, she was also very stubborn. Therefore, she hit and made a scene at Ding Yin. She did not care about her mother's ability at all. She was determined to achieve her goal. Ding Yin was originally still running, but when Tian Pei made such a fuss she immediately became irritated. Moreover, Ding Yin was already very tired at this time. Her running speed became slower and slower, to the point that she was overtaken by countless male parents carrying their children. At this moment Yun Jian and Adam had already rushed towards the finish line with Duan Li and Xiao Yunju in their arms. Upon closer inspection, there was not even a single drop of sweat on Yun Jian and Adam's faces. Duan Li and Xiao Yunju were very happy. They held hands and jumped in circles shouting, "We won!" and other things like that. Yun Jian only smiled slightly. As for Ding Yin, when she reached the finish line while arguing with her daughter, she was already in the 20th place. As a result, the words that Ding Yin had boasted in front of all the parents were instantly proven true. Many parents hid in a corner and secretly laughed at her. Chapter 650. After the parents of the second graders finished competing, the first segment of the competition ended and the morning competition came to an end. After the morning competition ended, Yun Jian, Lan Su, and Adam went to a nearby noodle restaurant for lunch. They ordered a bowl of pickled vegetable ramen. The pickled vegetable ramen was delicious. After Yun Jian and the other two finished their lunch and returned to Wanning Elementary School, the afternoon competition began. Xiao Yunju and the others had lunch at school. There were 3 major competitions for the Parent and Child Sports Day. The first was the Parent and Child Sports Day where the parents carried their children as they ran. This competition ended in the morning. The second competition had nothing to do with the parents. The second competition was between the students themselves. The third competition was between the parents and the other parents. The second competition was open to all students and the parents could watch from the side. For this competition there was a 20-meter distance. The students would jump back and forth using frog jumps to see who was faster and who scored higher. The scores were all calculated by the school, so it was absolutely fair. Yun Jian brought Xiao Yunju and Duan Li to the queue to wait. Because the frog jumps were open to all students and only a few students' scores could be registered at a time, it was more time-consuming. Therefore, the third competition for the parents was also held at the same time. Yun Jian brought Xiao Yunju and Duan Li to the second round of frog jumps to register. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li said that they did not need her to accompany them. At this moment, Yun Jian turned around and went to the third round of parent competitions with Adam. The afternoon sun was scorching. Lan Su was holding an umbrella and was sitting on the lawn looking into the distance. As she looked around, she spotted Yun Jian out of the blue and broke into a smile with her usual icy face. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked forward. At the place where Lan Su was looking, Adam's figure appeared. She moved away without a trace. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li were standing beside a flower bed, waiting for the teacher to register. Both of them had sports number tags on their chests. At this moment, there were still many students in front of them who were participating in the frog jump. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li listened to Yun Jian's words and held hands so that they wouldn't get separated. Duan Li blinked her adorable eyes. She stole a glance at Xiao Yunju and said, "Yunju, that man is so beautiful. Is he the C you were talking about?" Children would ask whatever they thought of. Even though Xiao Yunju had called out to Adam as Big Brother Adam, when they first met, Duan Li definitely wouldn't intentionally remember it. No, Big Brother CE is even better looking than Big Brother Adam. When Big Brother CE comes back I'll definitely let you meet him, Xiao Yunju said. Duan Li blinked and nodded. At this moment, a beautifully dressed girl with many small braids on her head walked over. When the girl walked over, she walked up to Duan Li without saying a word. She reached out and pushed Duan Li to the ground. Duan Li and Xiao Yunju were originally holding hands because of Yun Jian's words. However, when the girl pushed Duan Li, she fell and their hands broke. "What are you doing?" Xiao Yunju looked at Tian Pei who had suddenly appeared in front of him. He suddenly felt a surge of anger and roared at Tian Pei. "Who told you to beat me? You deserve it." Tian Pei spat at Xiao Yunju. Then she scolded Duan Li, "You pitiful worm without a mother. You can only rely on others to win. Shame on you. Shameless." Tian Pei knew that she couldn't beat Yunju. Even Wang Ba from their class couldn't beat Yunju. Therefore Tian Pei pushed Duan Li who was closer to Yunju away. Hearing Tian Pei's words, Duan Li lowered her head. Chapter 651. When Tian Pei was pushed to the ground by Xiao Yunju, she immediately started wailing. Tian Pei was a strong-willed girl. She didn't cry and just kept screaming. However, no one paid her any attention. Even the teachers didn't dare to step forward. Some of them pretended not to see Tian Pei screaming. After all, it was fine as long as the child didn't cry. The reason why the teachers didn't dare to step forward was because they had all seen what had happened during the competition. Tianpei had yelled and screamed in her mother's arms when she hadn't gotten first place. She had even hit her own mother. To the teachers, this kind of student was the scariest. After all, if such a student went over to help, she might not be able to explain herself and might even hit the teachers. Xiao Yunju snorted at Tianpei, who was pushed to the ground by him. He walked over to hold her hand and continued to line up. Xiao Yunju was actually quite strong. Back then Wang Ba had a strong body and asked Xiao Yunju for candy. Later Xiao Yunju refused to give it to him and Wang Ba snatched it from him. In the end, Xiao Yunju pushed Wang Ba's fat body to the ground. Xiao Yunju was quite strong. Seeing that Yunju pushed her down and left, Tianpei stopped yelling and could only get up on her own to join the queue with her tail between her legs. Yun Jian and Adam arrived at the venue of the third event. The three events set up by Waning Elementary School were very interesting. The first event was a parent-child run. Parents and children participated in it together. The second event was a frog jumping competition between children and children. The third event was a hula hoop competition. This event was specifically targeted at parents. The school's intention was that as long as the children's competition was complete, the parents' entertainment couldn't be neglected. Moreover, this sports meet was prepared for the children and parents. Of course, it should be as fun as possible. Yun Jian and Adam soon arrived at the venue of the third event. It was only when they arrived at the venue of the third event that Yun Jian and Adam realized that the third event was hula hooping. Yun Jian pursed her lips. She had learned a lot of things in her previous life, but she had never spun a hula hoop before. Although Yun Jian knew how to play with hula hoops, she had never touched one before. To be honest, she didn't care about the kosher mercenaries and came to this place to play hula hoop. Snake, Lizard and the others knew about this. Their jaws would probably fall off from laughing. Adam looked at the row of prepared hula hoops, pointed at himself and asked Yun Jian, young madam, can I get her to spin this for me? He didn't know what Lan Su was called, so he could only use she instead. No. Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at Adam and immediately rejected his words. What a joke. Asking Lan Su to spin the hula hoop. Lan Su came from the Yulong mainland. She probably didn't even know what a hula hoop was. How could she spin it? Adam swallowed his saliva, but he could only listen to Yun Jian. He didn't forget how young master instructed him to listen to young madam's arrangements. If he dared to disobey, he would be waiting for the cruelest punishment from an Hun organization. Yun Jian and Adam each picked up a hula hoop. Ding Yin, who was standing not far away, happened to see this scene. She could tell at a glance that it was Yun Jian and Adam's first time playing this. Therefore, before the competition started, Ding Yin walked over. As she walked, she sneered at Yun Jian and Adam. Yo, is this your first time playing this? That's a pity. But coincidentally, I know how to play this and I'm very familiar with it. Why don't I teach you? Chapter 652. While Ding Yin was speaking, Adam had already put the hoop on his head awkwardly. He put it down and hung it on his waist. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it. As one of the 4 leaders of the Hun organization, Adam, who could intimidate a large group of businessmen and politicians and make countless people bow down to him, was actually playing hula hoops here. If this were to be spread out, it would probably make others laugh until their teeth fell off. We don't know each other well. Yun Jian glared at Ding Yin. She knew Ding Yin's motive. She wanted to see her make a fool of herself. Ding Yin had been watching her for a long time. If she couldn't see through Ding Yin's eyes, then her years as a secret agent in her previous life would have been for nothing. Ding Yin sneered at Yun Jian in her heart when she heard Yun Jian's words. However, she still had a smile on her face. Don't be like this. We're all classmates. I'm just helping you. You don't know how to play this. This is how it should be played. As she spoke, Ding Yin took the hula hoop off her head and placed it on her waist with one hand. Then Ding Yin grabbed the hoop with both hands. She suddenly let go and her waist started spinning with the hoop. Like this. Just spin it. Follow me, Ding Yin said in a disdainful tone. Then she glanced at Yun Jian from the side and said in disdain. Ding Yin's figure wasn't particularly slender. After giving birth, her figure had grown even more out of shape. Therefore, the way Ding Yin spun the hoop looked like she was secretly laughing. After all, the competition hadn't started yet. She was already spinning the hoop. Yun Jian found it funny, but she didn't say it out loud. Parents, the competition is about to start. Please get ready, the teacher said. The competition was about to start. Xiao Yunju's parents were all ready. Because there was a limited number of hula hoop, the competition was a competition between the parents of each class. Of course, the final result would depend on who spun the most hoop. After Ding Yin was done showing off, she walked back to her place. She was about to turn into a hula hoop. Yun Jian held the hula hoop with one hand. She stood still and did not move. When the teachers confirmed the parents' sports number tags again, the competition was about to begin. At this time, Yun Jian grabbed the hula hoop and planned to put it on her head and waist like Adam, who had put it on his head and waist early in the morning. However, just as she raised the hula hoop, before her hand could put it on her head, suddenly Yun Jian heard a soft chi sound from afar. What a familiar voice. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Adam was about to grab the hula hoop, but at the same time he felt that something was wrong. The parents standing at the side did what they were supposed to do as usual. Not long after Yun Jian heard the soft sound, she suddenly raised the hula hoop in her hand and threw it into the air. The hula hoop seemed to be used as a shield by Yun Jian. She swung the hula hoop very hard, but controlled it so that it did not hit the people around her. Ding Yin was standing on Yun Jian's left. She screamed when Yun Jian raised the hula hoop in the air. Ding Yin reacted quickly. She screamed and scolded Yun Jian loudly. Why did you raise the hula hoop all of a sudden? Are you trying to scare me to death? Ding Yin's round hoop attracted the attention of all the parents around her. Just as Ding Yin finished speaking, a loud chi sound was heard. With a swoosh, a bullet that was hit by the hula hoop and stopped in its tracks fell in front of Yun Jian. This scene was seen by many parents. Ding Yin also happened to see this scene. Then there was a dead silence. Everyone's heart sank. Yun Jian's red lips moved slightly. There's a sniper. Run. Chapter 653. Although Yun Jian had been reborn, she was now in frequent contact with the organizations from her previous life. She had even appeared to exterminate the Inferno Ring. As a result, her current identity might have attracted a lot of attention. She didn't expect to encounter a sniper here. After all, this was a public place. However, she couldn't rule out the possibility that some assassins and secret agents would deliberately kill people in public to clear their names. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Her reaction was the fastest. When they heard that there was a sniper, the parents standing in the distance didn't react. Even the group of parents standing near Yun Jian, including Ding Yin, hadn't recovered from the shock. Sniper? To them, snipers were people who didn't have anything to do with their lives. To most ordinary people, assassins, secret agents, mercenaries, and special forces were all existences that were very far away from them. Perhaps in comparison, the existence of special forces was more relevant to their lives. Therefore, when Yun Jian's words came out, most of the parents present, including the teachers, looked at the scene in front of them with confused expressions. It wasn't until Yun Jian's voice came out again that most of the parents present came back to their senses. Run. If you don't want to die, find a place to hide. The word die rang the alarm bells of everyone present. Ah! At this time the crowd was replaced by screams. Some of the parents with quick reactions didn't even verify whether it was true or not. They ran to the competition area where their children were at, grabbed their children, and hid. As for Ding Yin, who was slower to react, she stood there stupidly. She was so scared that she couldn't even lift her feet. Her legs were weak. What's going on? What's going on? There were still some teachers who hadn't sensed any danger at the scene. At this moment, they were rushing over righteously. They're going to kill someone. There's a gun. There's a bullet. Some parents ran past the teachers who were rushing over, shouting as they ran. When the words of the parents reached the ears of the teachers, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. At this time, the teachers looked straight ahead and saw Yun Jian standing there with a bullet in her hand. It was said that rumors were the scariest. The truth could be said to be false, and the false could be said to be true. Regardless of whether it was true or not, the group of parents and teachers were all frightened. Some of them even ran away, not caring about the scene at all. Of course, most of the parents ran to where their children were. Other things could be ignored, but to most parents, their children were their lives. Ding Yin had been aggressive just a moment ago, but now she was so scared that her legs were weak and she sat on the ground as if paralyzed. She didn't even have the strength to move. Yun Jian just glanced at Ding Yin and ignored her. Needless to say, Ding Yin was no threat to him at all. The person Yun Jian wanted to deal with now was not a commoner like Ding Yin. Yun Jian knew that the sniper in the distance was here to assassinate her, and the sniper's sniping distance was very far, so she couldn't aim with her pistol. The sniper in the distance would not stop shooting at her. More importantly, Yun Jian believed that since someone wanted to assassinate her, the other party would definitely not send just one sniper to assassinate her. Adam gun. In front of Ding Yin, Yun Jian stretched out her hand to Adam, who was standing behind her. It was now 1:30 in the afternoon, and the sun's rays were still shining on Yun Jian's body. The winter sun was not dry and hot. Yes. Adam very respectfully took out an undetectable Browning pistol from his belt and handed it to Yun Jian. Seeing Yun Jian suddenly grab the pistol, Ding Yin felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. After Yun Jian dodged the barrage of bullets from the snipers, she took advantage of the time when the snipers were reloading their sniper rifles to run towards Xiao Yunju like a rocket. Seeing that there was no danger, Ding Yin crawled out of the flower beds. She was trembling, but she still hid behind the crowd and chased after Yun Jian. Ding Yin's daughter, Tian Pei, was in the same place as Xiao Yunju, so Ding Yin and Yun Jian ran together. Adam ran to the place where Xiao Yunju and Duanli were playing with frogs. Yun Jian was right behind him. Miss, Yunju is over there. He was taken away by a strange uncle. Hurry up and save him. Yun Jian had just arrived when Duanli ran over. Duanli's small body was trembling, but she suppressed her fear and told Yun Jian the whole story clearly. The people hiding in the surroundings immediately shut their mouths, not daring to make a sound. However, they also realized that the bullets were all aimed at Yun Jian. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She bit the butterfly knife, rolled forward twice, jumped up and continued to chase after the man. The sniper rifle continued to fire. Even some of the parents who were hiding and watching the situation could see it. This group of snipers' target was Yun Jian. Yun Jian's action of rolling to avoid the bullets stunned everyone present. After all, no one dared to compete with bullets in terms of speed. However, Yun Jian dared. Not only did she dare, but she also dared to chase after someone under the sniper's fire. Yunju was taken away by the bad uncle. She deserves it. It's best if she dies. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from afar. Although Yun Jian was running, she heard it clearly. The voice came from Tian Pei. Chapter 657. The man who was carrying the unconscious Xiao Yunju was clearly quite capable. Judging from his skills, he did not look like a second-rate killer. He could at least be considered a high-level killer. A high-level killer could kill 50 normal people. This was because a high-level killer's standard was similar to an advanced special forces soldiers. Of course, the advanced special forces soldiers here did not refer to people like Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan who had earned the title because of Yun Jian, but those who were truly capable. However, Chu Ning and the rest would become advanced special forces soldiers with real capabilities sooner or later. Usually, an official member of the advanced special forces who had undergone the most brutal training could take on 50 normal people alone. It was definitely not an exaggeration. However, such an existence had been killed on the spot by Yun Jian with a stab to his temple. Leaving these profound questions aside, just the fact that Yun Jian had killed someone was enough to scare everyone present out of their wits. Seeing someone kill someone in their imagination was definitely not as intense and shocking as seeing it in real life. Something like this had happened right in front of them, and the killer was the sister of their child's classmate from the same school. This feeling was definitely not as intense as they had imagined. After Yun Jian killed the man, she carried Xiao Yunju back from the man's shoulder before he fell to the ground. Xiao Yunju had been knocked out by the man and was unconscious at the moment. After Yun Jian carried Xiao Yunju, she did not even want the butterfly knife and retreated quite a distance from where she stood. Just as Lan Su reached out to stop Adam from helping Yun Jian, Lan Su and Adam had already disappeared from where they were. No one present knew what Lan Su and Adam had gone to do, and no one wanted to find out. Yun Jian hid behind a flower bed where the sniper could not aim. She checked Xiao Yunju from left to right and found that Xiao Yunju was only knocked out and was not a hindrance. It wouldn't affect the brain either. Just as Yun Jian flashed into the flower bed with Xiao Yunju, the crowd had already exploded. Kill, 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 they're killing people. Someone was so frightened that he was trembling with fear, shouting and yelling at the same time. Then a large group of female parents screamed in fright. For a moment, the whole place was in an uproar. After all, everyone present was a parent and most of them were female. The male parents had already gone to work. For parent-child sports events, most of them were female parents. However, when they saw such a bloody scene, the group of female parents were so scared that they were trembling. Even their necks were trembling. Yun Jian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed. Miss, how is Yunju? Is he okay? Chapter 658. Ding Yin and Tian Pei had been squatting in the flower bed, not daring to come out. The butterfly knife that Yun Jian had thrown out had hit the ground right in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, only a short distance away from their feet. The butterfly knife was still stained with the blood of the dead man, which had yet to coagulate. Now that the butterfly knife had been thrown by Yun Jian in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, it had sunk 3 inches into the ground. This scene alone was enough to send chills down the spines of onlookers. Needless to say, the parties involved, Ding Yin and Tian Pei, must be terrified right now. Mommy has blood. Oh. Tian Pei's original stubborn temper had turned pale with fright at the scene in front of her. She howled loudly, trembling all over, tears streaming down her face. If Tian Pei had the arrogance of a young lady at the beginning, then now she had lost all her dignity. She had even broken through her stubbornness, and her tears had even fallen. She was clearly terrified. Ding Yin was also scared half to death. How could she still care about her daughter Tian Pei? Ding Yin was trembling all over. She and Tian Pei huddled together, not even daring to breathe loudly, afraid that Yun Jian would pull out the butterfly knife and stab it into their temples. Just like the man who had just been killed. Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously at Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Then she strode forward, grabbed Tian Pei's collar, and pulled her out of Ding Yin's arms. What are you doing? Seeing her daughter being pulled away, Ding Yin could no longer stay still. She hurriedly tried to pull her daughter Tian Pei back. Yun Jian kicked Ding Yin away mercilessly. She grabbed Tian Pei's collar and looked at Tian Pei's tear-stained face. Yun Jian recalled the way Tian Pei had cursed Xiao Yunju just now. You just said that my brother is a fatherless child and told him to kill my brother, Yun Jian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At this moment, her murderous aura was so oppressive that even the adults present did not dare to say anything, let alone Tian Pei. Wah! Tian Pei was frightened by Yun Jian's words. She had no choice but to use her trump card, crying. Pa! Yun Jian grabbed Tian Pei's collar with one hand and slapped Tian Pei's face with the other. Yun Jian did not care that Tian Pei was still a child. After slapping her, she raised her voice and growled, "Why are you crying? Weren't you very powerful just now? Answer me." If Tian Pei scolded her, Yun Jian would not treat her like this. But what did she say? She actually cursed Xiao Yunju to die. The word, die, was taboo for Yun Jian. Especially when he cursed Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju had died once, which made Yun Jian cherish him even more. At the same time, she could not bear to see others scolding him. Tian Pei was scolded until she could only sob. The slap on her face was burning, but she did not dare to say a word. At this moment, a sharp siren was heard from outside the school. Not long after, a few police cars stopped there one after another. More than 10 policemen got out of the cars with batons in their hands. The leader of the group was a police officer from the police station near Wuning Elementary School. He heard gunshots from nearby residents, so he immediately rushed over. What happened? What happened? The police officer's surname was Wu. Officer Wu's eyelids twitched when he saw the dead man. When Ding Yin saw the police, she quickly took Tian Pei back from Yun Jian's arms. Then she pointed at Yun Jian and shouted at Officer Wu, "She killed someone. She even wanted to kill my daughter. She's crazy, take her away. Hurry up and shoot her." Yun Jian sneered. At this moment, Officer Wu walked to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and raised his voice. What happened? Yun Jian glanced at Officer Wu. She took out a document from her pocket and handed it to Officer Wu. Chapter 659. Officer Wu was a police officer from the police station near Wuning Elementary School. Perhaps Officer Wu was one of the higher-ranking officers in his station, but his status was nothing compared to the entire Longmen City. Officer Wu was usually high and mighty in the police station as well. After all, he was one of the more powerful officers in his station. In spite of that, he dared not even fart when he met his superiors. Yun Jian's Team Monarch, on the other hand, had only become famous recently. Officer Wu was in this line of work, so it was only natural that he had heard of Team Monarch's reputation. Team Monarch's reputation had only spread recently. In the beginning, Team Monarch had only completed a mission that even the advanced special forces found difficult. In their second mission, Team Monarch had even managed to retrieve the antique stolen by International God in the shortest time possible. These two missions had cemented Team Monarch's identity and promoted them to advanced special forces in the shortest time possible. When Team Monarch was still an advanced special forces candidate, they had completed 2 major missions in the shortest time possible within a few months and were promoted to advanced special forces directly by their superiors. Advanced Special Forces was an honor that some people could not attain even after decades of hard work. It was rumored that the honor of Team Monarch's Advanced Special Forces was earned by slashing God of Team Monarch. More importantly, the internationally renowned assassin organization Inferno Ring, which was second only to Hun Group and Kosha Mercenaries, was annihilated by slashing God of Team Monarch. Although it was unknown how slashing God of Team Monarch knew Hun Group and Kosha Mercenaries, the rumor had shocked everyone when it got out. In other words, there was no one who was not surprised. After all, slashing God of Team Monarch was only an underage girl according to the rumor. What Officer Wu did not expect was that slashing God of Team Monarch, who was rumored in his station Longmen City, the entire Zhe province, country Z, and even internationally, would appear before him. Oh my god. Smack. Officer Wu looked up at Yun Jian and the document in his hand fell to the floor. Putting aside the fact that Yun Jian was slashing God that had already spread to the international police force and the underworld, the fact that Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's subordinate was enough to overwhelm Officer Wu. Yun Jian smiled faintly at Officer Wu's reaction and bent down to pick up her document, patting the dust off and saying faintly, "You've dirted my document." Officer Wu's heart clenched when he heard Yun Jian's voice again. Officer Wu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he found that he couldn't say anything. Ding Yin couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Tian Pei, who had already begun to cry, and shouted at Officer Wu again, "You're the police. Team Monarch? Slashing God. Since you are the police, how can you protect her? She had killed someone. Princes are punished the same as commoners if they break the law. Even high-ranking officials can't do as they please. Why can't she be executed for killing someone?" Ding Yin had long detested Yun Jian. Moreover, Yun Jian had treated her daughter like that just now. She even had the urge to kill Yun Jian. Yun Jian turned her gaze to Ding Yin again when she heard what she said. Chapter 660. At this moment, Officer Wu wanted to strangle Ding Yin. He resisted the urge to strangle Ding Yin and nodded to Yun Jian. Can you explain what's going on? Officer Wu was at least 3 times older than Yun Jian. However, he was addressing Yun Jian as an elder. The surrounding police officers, including the parents who were hiding in the flower bed, were all dumbfounded. When Officer Wu appeared, he looked mighty and domineering and everyone present saw it. But how long had it been? Yun Jian had only given Officer Wu a short time to show him her ID, and Officer Wu was so polite to Yun Jian? This was illogical. At this moment, not only were the policemen who came with Officer Wu stunned, but also the parents and teachers who were hiding to watch the show but didn't dare to come out were all dumbfounded. Yun Jian pursed her lips and squinted her eyes. Her delicate face attracted everyone's attention. Yun Jian knew that if she didn't explain herself, it wouldn't matter to her. However, her brother was studying at Wanningi Elementary School and he still needed to be a person. Yun Jian could cut off her own path, but she would never allow her brother to cut off his future because of her. The dead man is a killer. You all saw what happened just now. A sniper tried to assassinate me and even tried to cause a riot. Yun Jian's explanation was simple. Killer? That man was a killer? All the parents, including Ding Yin and Officer Wu, felt their hearts skip a beat when they heard what Yun Jian said. That fear was innate. How can you say that he's a killer? He's just a human trafficker. Do you think you're a piece of gold? Did he kidnap your brother just to threaten you? Who do you think you are? Do you need their threats? You just want to clear your name. Ding Yin didn't let go. In fact, Ding Yin wanted to tell Yun Jian to die immediately. Can you show evidence that the dead man is a killer? Otherwise it will be difficult for us. Officer Wu was also in a difficult position. He looked at Yun Jian and said, although Yun Jian was a member of the Advanced Special Forces, she had killed someone in public. If she did not explain herself clearly to everyone present, this matter would not end just like that. After all, no one had the right to kill in public even if Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Of course, if Yun Jian had killed an assassin with her identity as an ASF soldier, not only would she not be arrested, but she would also be rewarded greatly. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She also knew that Officer Wu was in a difficult position. Yun Jian lifted her beautiful legs and walked towards the dead man. Seeing this, Officer Wu and the others also stepped forward. Ask your man to show the back of his hand, Yun Jian said to Officer Wu, pointing at the deceased. Yun Jian was now 90% sure that this man was from the Inferno Ring. Although the Inferno Ring had been eradicated, and even the remaining forces had been wiped out. However, Yun Jian did not think that there was nothing left of the Inferno Ring. Moreover, the Tai Jing gang had not been wiped out. Moreover, the Inferno Ring's method of kidnapping her brother in her previous life was the same as it was now. Officer Wu waved his hand. Immediately, a policeman stepped forward and tore open the back of the dead man's hand. Then, a golden rose was printed on the back of the man's hand. It was extremely eye-catching. This is? Officer Wu pointed at the back of the man's hand and turned to ask Yun Jian. Chapter 661. The Inferno Ring's people have a golden rose on their back. This is not something an outsider can imitate. If you don't believe me, you can check it out in the underworld. I believe you'll be able to find the results very quickly. Yun Jian crossed her arms and stood there looking at Officer Wu. It was no longer a secret that the Inferno Ring's people had a golden rose on their back. Anyone in the underworld would know about it. That was why Yun Jian dared to say it. Officer Wu was afraid of pressuring Yun Jian, so he turned to one of his subordinates and said, "Go check it out immediately. Verify if the information is accurate." There was nothing he could do. Even if Officer Wu wanted to cover up for Yun Jian was the one who killed someone in public first. This matter had to be dealt with carefully. "Sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to make you wait," Officer Wu said to his subordinate, then turned to face Yun Jian respectfully. The Inferno Ring's people actually appeared here, and it was obvious that they were here to take revenge on Yun Jian. From this, it seemed that the fact that Yun Jian led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was true. Officer Wu felt a chill run down his spine and swallowed his saliva. The killing god who led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was here. How could he not be frightened? What kind of existence was the Inferno Ring? It was the world of assassins. And Yun Jian led a team to destroy them. What are you waiting for? Even if this man is an assassin, so what? She killed someone. This is an ironclad fact. She's just an ordinary girl and she can kill people. What can she do in the future? You police officers should arrest her immediately and handcuff her hands first. She's a murderer. What if she runs away? Ding Yin saw that Officer Wu was biased towards Yun Jian. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth and pointed at Yun Jian. She looked like she really wanted the police to arrest Yun Jian immediately and interrogate her. "Shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll arrest you first." Officer Wu was a police officer. As a police officer, he had his own judgment. Now that he heard Ding Yin ordering him in front of him again and again, he felt as if he had lost control of himself. She was not his superior. Moreover, she was just an ordinary parent. How could she order the police around? Officer Wu couldn't take it anymore and yelled at Ding Yin. "You." Ding Yin was a respectable lady both at home and outside. She had never been scolded like this before, so she was so scared that she shrank back. "Are you still a police officer? Aren't the people's police supposed to serve the people? Now that she's killed someone in front of us, you should arrest her. I'll take her to the police station and give her a good beating. Let's see if she'll confess. There's no need to say so much nonsense." Ding Yin continued to instruct Officer Wu, as if she was reasonable. However, no matter how many people present heard Ding Yin's words, they were all extremely displeased. "You. A woman like you is incurable." Officer Wu pointed at Ding Yin and shouted bitterly. However, what he said was what many people present were thinking. Who would arrest someone to extort a confession without first making things clear? That was a criminal law that only existed in ancient times. For a moment, Officer Wu hated Ding Yin. Reporting, "We have the results." Officer Wu's subordinate had already closed the walkie-talkie and walked back and shouted to Officer Wu. What's the result?" Officer Wu asked. Chapter 662. To be honest, Officer Wu breathed a sigh of relief when the person spoke. If the dead man was not an assassin, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. In addition to the incitement of the parents around them, Yun Jian would really be sent to jail. After all, even if she was a special forces soldier, she would be treated the same as an ordinary person. After all, there was an old saying that a prince would be punished the same as a commoner if he broke the law. In spite of this, Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's woman and she was also Slashing God of Team Monarch. Now that Slashing God of Team Monarch's name was known all over the world, the members of Team Monarch were famous as well. As for the 10 teams of advanced special forces who went with Yun Jian to take out Inferno Ring, they had been recruited by major international criminal police forces or reputable people. Zhe province's military had been raised several notches as well. All of this was thanks to Yun Jian. Officer Wu had heard of Yun Jian's name before, which was why he was so fearful of her. In spite of it, Ding Yin did not know Yun Jian's identity. Ding Yin did not know what Inferno Ring was, nor did she know what Team Monarch was, let alone who Slashing God was. That was why Ding Yin incited her again and again. There were many parents like Ding Yin present. They did not know that Officer Wu's claim that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God meant that she was an advanced Special Forces soldier. Everyone present even thought that Yun Jian was merely Xiao Yunju's elder sister, the parent of an ordinary student in Wanningi Elementary School. To Ding Yin and the others, perhaps they did not know what Team Monarch and Inferno Ring represented. However, if Longmen City's Falcon Hall was mentioned, everyone present would probably know about it. Falcon Hall was the top mafia group in Longmen City. In spite of this, the people present did not know that Inferno Ring and Falcon Hall were incomparable. Perhaps in the eyes of those who did not know, Falcon Hall was more threatening than Inferno Ring. In fact, those who knew the truth knew that Falcon Hall and Inferno Ring could not be compared at all. The Inferno Ring was an international assassin organization. That was an ironclad fact. Falcon Hall, on the other hand, was merely the biggest mafia group in Longmen City. It was nothing outside of Longmen City, Zhe Province, and even Country Z. Since the matter has been investigated clearly, you can go now, Officer Wu said respectfully to Yun Jian. Advanced Special Forces soldiers had the right to be hands-off. As long as the matter was not too complicated and she did not commit a serious crime like murder, the document in her hand was enough for her to clear her name and leave directly. This was the reason why Yun Jian had agreed to join the Advanced Special Forces with Gu Junjian. What? If she just threatened my daughter and killed someone? Why should she leave? The clueless Ding Yin had no idea that Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Therefore, when she heard that Officer Wu was going to let Yun Jian go, she immediately shouted. Even if the person she killed was a criminal who deserved to die, she still killed someone. She's just a normal person. She'll be jailed for at least a few days if she kills someone. Moreover, it's hard to guarantee that she won't kill innocent people. Why should she leave? Ding Yin continued to shout, even blocking Yun Jian's path to prevent Yun Jian from leaving. Why? Because she's an Advanced Special Forces soldier. She killed an unpardonable assassin. This is the duty of the Advanced Special Forces. Tell me, why should she? Officer Wu shouted back at Ding Yin. This was the difference between an ordinary person killing someone who should have been killed and an Advanced Special Forces soldier killing someone who should have been killed. If the Advanced Special Forces killed an assassin, the people present would only think that Yun Jian was amazing and was serving the people. If Yun Jian was just an ordinary person, then there was a problem. Why would an ordinary person like her kill someone? In everyone's eyes, this could only be described as abnormal. That's enough. Let's go. Officer Wu nodded quickly. Yun Jian nodded. She didn't even look at Ding Yin and her mother as she turned and walked towards Xiao Yunju. Officer Wu ignored Ding Yin as well and quickly led his team to clean up the scene. Ding Yin stood where she was, dumbfounded. "Oh, you idiot." Just as Ding Yin was still dumbfounded, Wang Ba's mother saw that the surroundings had calmed down and guessed that the police must have eliminated the snipers. She pulled Wang Ba out and stood in front of Ding Yin. "What's wrong?" Ding Yin was already upset, so she asked Wang Ba's mother indifferently. Chapter 664. Wang Ba's mother was truly regretting it now. She regretted provoking Yun Jian. No matter how she thought about it, she would never have guessed that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. In fact, Wang Ba's mother regretted it when she went against Yun Jian back then. After all, it was Wang Ba who snatched Xiao Yunju's candy first. Just because of such a trivial matter, New Cruise stopped selling cars to their family in the future. Wang Ba's mother's regret was not something a normal person could understand. Moreover, many imported cars and even limited edition sports cars were only available in New Cruise. Wang Ba's mother could forget about it. Even if other car marketing companies had imported cars and Wang Ba's mother's family could purchase cars from other car dealerships, what about limited edition sports cars? Although Wang Ba's mother's family could not afford limited edition sports cars, at least they could go to New Cruise to see how limited edition sports cars looked like if they did not provoke Yun Jian. However, if they provoked Yun Jian, they would not even be able to enter New Cruise's entrance. Wang Ba's mother had experienced the feeling deeply, so she was helpless. That was why Wang Ba's mother spoke to Ding Yin with the tone of an experienced person. It was too late. When Wang Ba's mother came to speak to her just now, Ding Yin did not seem bothered at first. However, after hearing what Wang Ba's mother said, Ding Yin's eyes widened and she shouted almost at the same time, "What? New Cruise's director? Who in Longmen City did not know about New Cruise? Who did not know about New Cruise's director?" It was the company that held Country Z's biggest auto show the first time it was listed and rose to fame overnight. Now, it was the most famous company in the country. Such a company was actually Yin Jian's. This. Ding Yin's mother's hands went limp from the shock and she almost fainted. Tian Pei, who was in Ding Yin's arms, was thrown to the ground because of the latter's weak grip. Ah! Tian Pei howled in pain. Tian Pei was still a child, but the fall would hurt for a few days at least. Of course, this was all Ding Yin's fault and had nothing to do with Yun Jian. Yun Jian had just returned to the flower bed where Xiao Yunju and Duanli were, when she saw that Xiao Yunju had already woken up while rubbing his small eyes. Duanli had been protecting the unconscious Xiao Yunju. She only started chatting with Xiao Yunju when he woke up. Seeing Yun Jian coming over, Duanli became even more excited and shouted at Yun Jian, "Sister, you're here. Yunju is awake." Okay. Yun Jian and Duanli looked at each other and smiled, then walked over. Because of this incident, the school was dismissed in the afternoon. After all, they could only return to school after the police had investigated the whole story. Otherwise, if he continued to go to school, he wouldn't even be able to guarantee his life. What was the point of going to school? This meant that Xiao Yunju and the others were on vacation again. After asking Duanli, Yun Jian found out that Duanli had no one to pick her up from school this time. Even Duanli usually went to school and went home alone. Seeing that Xiao Yunju was worried about Duanli going home alone, Yun Jian planned to send Duanli home. Just as she brought Xiao Yunju and Duanli to the gate, Yun Jian saw Adam and Lan Su rushing back like a rocket. The two of them ran to Yun Jian almost at the same time. "Where did you guys go?" Yun Jian saw the two of them and asked. "To kill the sniper," Adam and Lan Su said in unison. After that, Adam and Lan Su looked at each other and glared at each other. Yun Jian's mouth twitched. Lan Su explained, "I was the one who killed that sniper just now." "Nonsense, young madam, I killed the sniper with a gun." Adam did not back down. Chapter 665. Yun Jian had guessed early on that Adam and Lan Su had gone to kill the sniper. But she hadn't thought that Adam and Lan Su would fight to claim credit in front of her. "Yun Jian, that sniper was indeed killed by my darts." Lan Su didn't back down at all after hearing Adam's words. A trace of annoyance appeared on her proud and cool face. Lan Su's words were directed at Yun Jian. Seeing Lan Su's serious expression, Adam suddenly smiled. Then he looked at Lan Su, then at Yun Jian and said in a resigned tone, Fine. You killed that sniper. I'm a man, so I won't argue with a little girl like you." Adam and Emo-sun followed beside Ce. Emo-sun was the kind of person who would never claim credit in front of Ce, while Adam had a fiery personality and was the kind of person who would say anything. Although Lan Su had lived for thousands of years in the Yulong continent, on Earth she looked only 16 or 17 years old. She did fit Adam's description of her as a little girl. Adam and Emo-sun were both older than Ce and were in their early 20s. Hearing Adam call her a little girl, Lan Su cast a sidelong glance at Adam. Her cold and proud face carried a trace of annoyance. "Yun Jian, I don't like to walk with him." "Let him go," Lan Su said directly to Yun Jian. Lan Su was from the Yulong continent. She didn't understand the ways of the world, and she didn't know how to treat people with respect. She was very straightforward with her words. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. She was very helpless, and then she turned to look at Adam. Yun Jian didn't say anything. Hearing Lan Su's words, Adam continued to bicker with Lan Su. "Hey, I'll go my way, you cross your bridge. I don't think we have any deep grudges, right?" Yun Jian didn't say anything, but Adam didn't dare to leave. He was sent back by the young master to serve Yun Jian. If he dared to leave now, Adam dared to guarantee that the door of the Amazon forest would be open for him anytime. Furthermore, Shuang was the most unreliable one. Once he made a mistake, Shuang would definitely send him to the Amazon forest. Even though he had the best relationship with Shuang, the clothes that Shuang had given him had been snatched away by Ce to be used as a cloak for Yun Jian. Once Shuang heard Ce's words, he would definitely become a bad friend. Adam pursed his lips. Yun Jian smiled. Then she touched Duanli's head and said indifferently, "You all go back first. I'll send Chestnut back before going home." After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lan Su and Adam nodded obediently. "All right." Yun Jian suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh?" Lan Su and Adam stopped in their tracks. With one hand holding Xiao Yunju and the other hand holding Duanli, Yun Jian had already brought everyone to a less crowded area. Yun Jian looked up at Lan Su and Adam. Chapter 666. Duanli didn't know what flirting meant, but she heard from a classmate named Little Hui in her class that the current situation was very similar to what Little Hui had said, so Duanli said it out loud. Oh, Xiao Yunju seemed to understand immediately. He pretended to be a little adult and nodded. He pretended to understand and replied to Duan Li, then big sister and big brother Adam are flirting. The big sister he was referring to was Lan Su. To Xiao Yunju, as long as someone treated him well and was older than him, even if he didn't know their name, he would call them big sister. I think that should be the case. Duan Li still didn't know that she had misled Xiao Yunju. She nodded and then grinned. Duan Li's little face had a slight smile. Just looking at it made people want to pinch her pink little face. No matter how soft Xiao Yunju and Duan Li's conversation was, Yun Jian still heard it. Lan Su and Adam had good hearing, so naturally they heard everything clearly. After hearing Xiao Yunju and Duan Li's conversation, Lan Su and Adam's hearts immediately thumped. The two suddenly turned their heads. Neither of them wanted to pay attention to the other. They also stopped bickering as if they were afraid that Xiao Yunju and Duan Li would misunderstand again. However, Lan Su wouldn't yell at Xiao Yunju or Duan Li in front of Yun Jian. With Ce around, Adam didn't dare to do it either. After Xiao Yunju and Duan Li said that, Yun Jian felt awkward for Lan Su and Adam. She pursed her lips again, then said to Lan Su and Adam, "You guys go back first." She was waiting for this sentence. Lan Su and Adam replied at the same time, "Aha." Right after they finished speaking, Lan Su glared at Adam fiercely, then turned around and left quickly. Adam didn't move either. The two of them quickly disappeared from Yun Jian's sight. "Alright, Chestnut, where do you live? Big sister will take you home now," Yun Jian said as she reached out to rub Duan Li's head again. At the mention of home, Duan Li's little body trembled slightly. Yun Jian noticed Duan Li's reaction. Yun Jian frowned slightly but didn't ask further. "Miss, can you go and pick up my little sister from school first? Her name is Duanya and she's a very obedient child. She won't make a fuss." Duan Li asked Yun Jian politely. Where does your sister go to school?" Yun Jian did not expect Duan Li to have a younger sister. She was slightly stunned, but her expression did not change. "She attends Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street." "Little sister, I'll take you there," Duan Li said, holding Yun Jian's hand and leading the way habitually. With Duan Li leading the way, the three of them soon arrived at Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. After picking up Duan Li's little sister, Duanya, Yun Jian took Duan Li and Duanya home. On the way, Xiao Yunju even plucked up the courage to ask Duan Li, "Chestnut, do you pick up your little sister from school every day?" Duan Li smiled brightly. "Yes, my little sister is very obedient." Duan Li's calm words touched people's hearts. She was only an 8-year-old child herself, but she had to pick up her little sister from school every day. Yun Jian suddenly felt a little pity for Duan Li. Duan Li was very steady in doing things. She couldn't not be steady and couldn't be a child because she had a little sister. She had to mature. By the time she took Duan Li and Duanya back to Duan Li's house, the group had already walked for more than 10 minutes. More than 10 minutes later, the group arrived at an apartment that was filled with garbage everywhere, as if no one had cleaned it. There were very few people living in this apartment, and it looked like no one usually cleaned it. Duan Li took them to the 3rd floor and opened her door. Chapter 667. Yun Jian's eyelids twitched. The first thing she saw was beer bottles all over the floor. The strong smell of beer, coupled with the rotting smell coming from inside the house, mixed together to create a strong stench. There were very few things in the house. There was only one bedroom and one living room. There was only a small table in the living room that looked like it would break at any time. Other than that, there was a low bed by the window in the living room. The blanket on the bed was very thin. Especially in winter like this, when people were lying on the bed, the cold wind would blow in through the cracks in the window at night. Other than 4 to 5 bowls, chopsticks, and an old stove, there was nothing else. This was Duan Li's house. Yun Jian could tell from Duan Li's clothes that she was not a girl from a rich family. Yun Jian would never measure a person's worth with money. However, Yun Jian did not expect Duan Li's family to be so poor. In fact, Duan Li was a poor student. She was studying at Wuning Elementary School with the help of the state's financial aid for poor students. Duan Li's sister, Duanya, was also in a similar situation. Without the financial aid from the state, Duan Li's family would not even be able to enter the school. "Miss Yunju, my dad isn't home. Come in. I'll get you a glass of water." Duan Li pulled her 6-year-old sister to the low bed by the window in the living room and let her sit on it. Then she said to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. Duan Li then went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water for Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju took the water. After Duan Li handed Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju the water, She sensibly walked over to pick up the beer bottles on the floor and put them on the stairs in the corridor. She planned to throw them down the stairs together with the trash in the future. Xiao Yunju did not mind the environment here. He even sat on the only bench in the house and chatted with Duan Li. Duan Li's younger sister, Duanya, didn't say a word from beginning to end. Yun Jian didn't mind the environment here. She was also invited by Duan Li to sit on Duan Li and Duanya's small bed. Needless to say, it was time for Yun Jian to figure it out. The house had one bedroom and one living room. There wasn't even a toilet. If they wanted to go to the toilet, they had to go to the public toilet downstairs. Since Duan Li and Duanya were sleeping on this shabby bed by the window in the living room, that bedroom must be their father's bedroom. From this, it could be inferred that Duan Li and Duanya's father did not even have the most basic fatherly love for his two children, let alone spoiling them. Yun Jian suddenly felt sorry for Duan Li. "Miss, my dad won't be coming home today. Why don't you stay for dinner? I'm a great cook." Duan Li invited Yun Jian sincerely. Yun Jian hesitated for a moment but finally nodded. Yun Jian noticed that every time Duan Li mentioned her father, she would be a little scared. And from what Duan Li said just now, if her father came home today, Duan Li wouldn't dare to ask her and Xiao Zhu to stay for dinner. Looking at Duan Li's expression of wanting to show off, Yun Jian finally nodded and smiled at Duan Li. Then Duan Li ran to the stove and began to cook as if she was an expert. After a while, a pot of food that was quite sumptuous for Duan Li and her sister was out of the oven. It was a bowl of porridge with only a small handful of rice. There were also a few vegetables floating on top of the porridge. The world was so unfair. The rich drove luxury cars while the poor couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing. To Duan Li, it was already a sumptuous meal to have vegetables mixed in the food. Duan Li's heart skipped a beat. Yun Jian frowned. Just then, a rather handsome man in his 30s walked in through the open door. Behind this man was a rich woman in her 40s or 50s, who was decked out in gold and silver. "Dad." Duan Li didn't expect her father to come back. She was so scared that the bowl in her hand slipped and fell to the ground, and the sound of the bowl breaking could be heard. The man in the lead was quite handsome, and he looked 50% similar to Duan Li and Duanya. When she saw the man, Duanya, who was sitting on the bed, was so scared that she curled up into a ball. Duan Li's father was called Duan Shi. Duan Shi looked decent, and it wasn't hard to tell that he was a rather handsome man when he was young. However, at the moment he looked a little dispirited, especially when he saw Duan Li and Duanya. His brows were tightly knitted together. When he saw Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju, Duan Shi didn't even ask anything and yelled at Duan Li, "Duan Li, didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to bring outsiders to our house? And how dare you break our bowl? Do you want to die?" Chapter 669. From Duan Shi's actions, it was obvious that hitting Duan Li was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Duan Li asked Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju to stay for dinner. She did not expect her father to come home that night, because his father would only come home late at night with the smell of beer all over his body. Therefore, when she saw Duan Shi, she was completely dumbfounded. "Go to hell." Duan Shi's ferocious and venomous voice rang out, carrying with it an unacceptable sense of unreasonableness. At the same time, Duan Shi's broom was right above Duan Li's forehead. "Don't hit little chestnut. Get lost." Xiao Yunju immediately rushed out and extended his small arms to block Duan Shi's blow. Duan Shi would even hit his own daughter, let alone someone who was not related to him by blood. He waved the broom and viciously swung it at Xiao Yunju's head. If he was not careful, this strike could even paralyze Xiao Yunju. After all, a child's body was very fragile. The rich woman who was in her 40s or 50s who stood behind Duan Shi was even more excited when she saw the scene. Shaking her thick legs, she watched as Duan Shi swung the broom at Yunju and Duan Li like she was watching a show. Just as the rich woman saw Duan Shi raise the broom above Xiao Yunju's head and was about to hit Xiao Yunju's head heavily, a figure blocked in front of Xiao Yunju like a flash of lightning. Then they saw Yun Jian reach out. She gently reached out and caught the broom that Duan Shi was swinging at her. Swoosh. Everyone present could only hear the soft sound of the broom being swung. Other than that, there was no other sound. Suddenly Yun Jian caught the broom. Duan Shi frowned and looked at Yun Jian. His originally handsome face suddenly scrunched up. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously and shouted, "Who are you? Why are you at my house? Why are you meddling in my family's business? Get lost, get lost. I'm hitting my own daughter, what does it have to do with you?" Duan Shi's words were overbearing and self-righteous. Yun Jian frowned. She looked at Duan Shi and stood in front of Duan Li, who was trembling in fear, and Xiao Yunju, who had stepped forward to save Duan Li. Yun Jian's aura carried the arrogance of a ruler. She looked at Duan Shi, and naturally she had already guessed the situation of Duan Li's family. It doesn't matter who I am, but I have to get involved in today's matter. Yun Jian's voice rang out, causing Duan Shi and the rich woman standing behind her to shiver. Of course it was just a shiver. Her age was not enough to threaten Duan Shi and the rich woman. Honey, isn't this your home? What does hitting your own daughter have to do with her? And who is she? If they come to your house, you can sue them for trespassing. The rich woman walked over and leaned against Duan Shi. She used her elephant legs and fat butt to stick to Duan Shi as she shouted intimately. Yun Jian knew what was going on right away. This Duan Shi was good-looking, but his family was so poor. If she guessed correctly, this Duan Shi was probably kept by this rich woman in front of her. In this day and age, it was not necessary for a rich man to keep a woman as a mistress. As long as one was rich, a woman could still keep a man as a mistress. Mei, sit down first. I'll serve you after I've dealt with these two shameless cheese in my house. Duan Shi shouted intimately at the rich woman. Then he turned around and looked at Duan Li and Duan Ye with a furious expression. He was indeed kept by this rich woman's husband, who was worth tens of millions. The rich woman also relied on her husband's money to keep him as a mistress. It was also because this rich woman named Shi Mei came from a wealthy family that Duan Shi chose to be with her even though she was ugly and was 20 to 30 years older than him. Chapter 670. Duan Shi turned to look at Yun Jian after speaking to Shi Mei intimately. This is my family's business. Scram. Otherwise I'll call the police. You can wait to go to jail. Duan Shi glared at Yun Jian, his tone harsh and uncourteous. Just as Duan Shi finished, Shi Mei fished out a newly bought phone from her bag like she was showing off and dialed 110 in front of everyone. Country Z's first 110 police station was set up in 1986. It was now 1999 and Longmen City was one of the more economically developed cities in Country Z. Therefore, a 110 police station had been set up a long time ago. After Shi Mei took out her phone, she waved it in front of Yun Jian like she was showing off. Then she used her plump hand with bright red nail polish that looked fashionable in this era to dial 110. However, she did not make the call directly. Duan Shi turned to see that Shi Mei had already dialed the police number. He snickered at Shi Mei and turned to threaten Yun Jian again in a vicious tone. If you don't scram, we'll call the police right away. We have phones. Ah. Duan Shi was full of bragging as he spoke. He felt that he was rich now that he was riding on Shi Mei's coattails. Jie Yunju, leave now. Duan Li was obviously afraid of Duan Shi, but she walked over anyway and tugged at the corner of Yun Jian's shirt as she told Yun Jian. Scram. And you two damn brats, I'll definitely kill you later. How dare you disregard my words? Duan Shi scolded Yun Jian first before he spoke in a menacing tone like he was going to swallow Duan Li and Duan Ye alive. It was not hard to imagine how Duan Li and Duan Ye would be tortured by Duan Shi if Yun Jian really left with Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian pulled Duan Li into her arms without a trace. She glared at Duan Shi with a sharp gaze before she let go of Duan Li. I won't allow you to bully Chestnut. Xiao Yunju stood in front of Duan Li and Yun Jian. He stretched out his arms and glared at Duan Shi with his small black eyes. His stare was so intense that it almost bored a hole in Duan Shi's body. It was a pity that Duan Shi had been frightened since he was young. Xiao Yunju's threats had no effect on Duan Shi. Xiao Zhu, let's go. Yun Jian let go of Duan Li's hand, then grabbed Xiao Yunju's hand and walked towards the door. Sister, why? If we leave, Chestnut will be bullied. Xiao Yunju was stunned. He always thought that his sister was very powerful. Why did his sister want to leave when Chestnut was in danger? Duan Shi and Shi Mei, who was standing behind them with her phone in her hand, smiled contemptuously at Yun Jian. They thought that Yun Jian was frightened by them. Just as Yun Jian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked between Duan Shi and Shi Mei and was about to walk out of the door, Yun Jian suddenly turned around and kicked Duan Shi. The strength of this kick was so strong that it suddenly knocked Duan Shi to the ground. Chapter 671. Duan Shi and Shi Mei had yet to recover from their shock when they were sent flying by the kick. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li both looked at Yun Jian with admiration. Duan Shi and Shi Mei were obviously terrified. Yun Jian's skills were uncanny and frightening. How could there be a 16 or 17-year-old girl who pretended to leave just a second ago and turned around to send someone flying with a kick as fast as she could when she reached the door? Duanshi and Shimei were used to the evils of society. They had already thought of themselves as people who were familiar with the cruelty of reality and were the pioneers of society. Duanshi, in particular, could have anything he wanted ever since he fell in love with a rich woman like Shimei. Money for beer was not a problem at all. Recently, Duanshi had been behaving as respectfully as he could and often did not return home at night. Coming home today, Duanshi had planned to abandon his children and take some necessities to enjoy himself with Shimei. However, he did not expect to see two strangers, Yunjian and Xiao Yunju, as soon as he got home. Duanshi was poor and was unwilling to go to work to earn money. He had also never raised his two children at home. It was Longmen City's government that was paying for their livelihood. Duanshi even had to use the funds given by the government to buy beer, let alone support Duanli and Duanya. In fact, it was only recently that Duanshi had stopped taking the money given to his children by the government because he had fallen in love with a rich woman like Shimei. Of course, if he wanted Duanshi to give Duanli and Duanya living expenses, there was no way. Beep beep beep. Just as Duanshi was sent flying and his front teeth were bleeding and he was thinking about killing Yunjian and his two burdens, the sound of a phone being dialed rang. Yunjian's hand pressed the confirm button on Shimei's phone softly. Shimei's phone had already dialed 110, but she and Duanshi had been threatening Yunjian. Moreover, Shimei and Duanshi only knew how to dial the number. They did not have the courage to call the police. Especially Shimei, who was now using her husband's money to support Duanshi. If she really went to the police station to make a statement, it would definitely alarm her husband. If Shimei's husband found out about Shimei and Duanshi's scandal, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Moreover, not to mention taking money from Shimei's husband to give to Duanshi, even Shimei herself would face marriage problems with her husband. At that time, even Shimei would turn from a rich woman to a penniless one. Therefore, Shimei did not dare to call the police. At most, she only wanted to threaten Yunjian. But he never thought that Yunjian wouldn't fall for it. Yunjian naturally saw through Shimei's thoughts. She snatched the phone just to call the police. After the phone rang 3 times, Shimei and Duanshi instantly realized the danger they were in. They ignored the pain from being thrown to the ground and the door and rushed toward Yunjian as soon as they got up. Shimei shouted and screamed at the same time. Her fiery voice no longer had its initial tranquility. "Give it back to me. Give it back to me. You'd *M woman, give it back to me. Do you believe that we won't find someone to kill you? Give us back our phones now." Duanshi threatened Yunjian as he looked at her ferociously. Duanshi also knew some gangsters, so he threatened Yunjian even more vigorously. However, Duanshi was smarter than Shimei. He was kicked by Yunjian just now, so he did not dare to go forward. Shimei, on the other hand, rushed forward without a care. However, just as Shimei reached Yunjian, Yunjian pulled Xiao Yunju and Duanli to avoid her. Chapter 672. I'm reporting domestic violence against a child at home. The address is Unit 302, Block 3, Residential Apartment, East Street, Sanyang Road. Yunjian told her address and everything in one breath. When Shimei rushed over, Yunjian had already told her everything, including their address. Yunjian knew the address so well because she had a habit. No matter where she went, she would look at the street signs around her, including the house numbers. Of course, she would only take a quick glance. Others might not be able to see anything, but she had already memorized all the street signs and house numbers. In fact, in daily life, street signs, house numbers, and even the building of the apartment were all indicated. It all depended on whether one would look and pay attention in real life. Of course, Yunjian had a good memory, so she remembered all of it. When Yunjian reported the address accurately, Duanshi and Shimei were dumbfounded. At that moment, Yunjian had already hung up on Shimei's phone. She was wearing sportswear today because she was attending Xiao Yunju's parent-child sports day. Her phone was a heavy item, so she did not bring it. Instead, she brought a butterfly knife. Because the butterfly knife was something she was used to using. Seeing that Yunjian had already hung up on the phone, Shimei flew into a rage. She turned to glare at Duanshi and shouted, "What should we do? What should we do? She already made the call. How did she know your address? Were you the one who told her about it? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me. You can do whatever you want." Because Shimei was afraid, she pushed all the blame to Duanshi. After saying that, Shimei grabbed her bag and wanted to run away. Because Shimei was nervous, she did not even want to take her phone back. "No. I didn't say it. Mei, I came back with you. How could I lie to you?" Duanshi quickly turned around and pulled Shimei. Then Duanshi pushed all the blame to Duanli. Duanshi glared at Duanli and spoke in a fierce tone. That fierce tone did not have the slightest trace of father-daughter affection. He looked at Duanli and roared, "Was it you who gave her my address just now? You little bitch, I'll kill you later." Not only did Duanshi have no fatherly affection for Duanli and Duanya, he even hated them. Usually he would hit and kick them. When he was drunk, Duanshi would even smash a beer bottle on Duanli's head. Duanli had a cut on her head from the beer bottle shards, but because of her hair no one could see it. "Father." Duanli shrunk back in fear. She could already imagine how Duanshi would scold and beat her. Xiao Yunju, Duanshi, Duanli, Duanshi, and Duanshi Mei and Duanshi. Looking at Duanshi, Yunjian's right hand had been in her pocket since the beginning. "You be asterisk tis. Just you wait. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Just you wait." Duanshi did not dare to attack Duanli as she was protected by Yunjian. Therefore Duanshi could only threaten Duanli verbally. At that moment, Duanshi wanted to tear Duanli into pieces. After saying that, Duanshi held Shi Mei's hand and the two of them planned to escape. At that moment, police sirens were heard from the door. Duanshi and Shi Mei's hearts tightened. Why did the police come so quickly? At that moment, 3 or 4 police officers came up the stairs. As soon as the police officers entered the stairs, Yunjian saw a familiar face. Chapter 673. Officer Wu received a new mission not long after he finished his work at Wanningyi Elementary School. Someone reported domestic violence. Usually, domestic violence could be mediated with the neighborhood committee first. If the mediation failed, the police would intervene. However, according to the police records, it was not the first time Duanshi's family had been reported for domestic violence. The police had even intervened before. Duanshi had been sent to the police station more than once. However, he was released in the end. Duanli and Duanya were often beaten up badly by Duanshi. Even the other owners of the apartment could not stand it anymore. Therefore, someone had already reported Duanshi. Duanshi had also been arrested and sent to the police station, but he was eventually released without charge. Of course, the other owners of the apartment would not watch Duanshi for domestic violence for the sake of Duanli and Duanya. Therefore, Duanshi would only hit his daughters when there was no one around. Other than that, Duanshi would only hit Duanli and Duanya in front of others when he was drunk. Otherwise, Duanshi would vent his anger on his daughters when he was angry. It was also because of this that Officer Wu was sent here before he even returned to the police station after finishing his work. Moreover, it was not Officer Wu's first time here, so he was familiar with the place. However, Officer Wu did not expect to see Yunjian right after he finished his work at Wanningyi Elementary School. Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier. She was Team Monarch/Slashing God. Therefore, Officer Wu was shocked when he saw Yunjian. Yunjian merely smiled at Officer Wu. Duanshi and Shi Mei were already nervous. When Officer Wu greeted Yunjian the moment he entered, they were even more shocked. "Yunjian, she knows a police officer? If that was the case, are you the one who reported the case?" Just as Duanshi and Shi Mei were feeling guilty, Officer Wu asked Yunjian. Officer Wu did not even look at Duanshi and Shi Mei. Yunjian nodded slightly. "We've investigated this matter many times. You're Mr. Duan, right?" Officer Wu looked at Duanshi and was not unfamiliar with him. The news of Duanshi beating up Duanli and Duanya had already spread throughout the apartment complex. Some of the owners could not stand it anymore and had already called the police. The neighborhood committee had tried to persuade Duanshi, and the police had tried to detain Duanshi, but it was useless. Because the police station did not have absolute evidence to prove the severity of Duanshi's domestic violence, it was not enough to put Duanshi behind bars. Duanshi only glanced at Officer Wu and did not reply. But in reality, Officer Wu knew who Duanshi was even without asking. "Regarding your abuse of the child, Officer Wu was interrupted by Duanshi before he could finish his sentence. Motherf asterisk her, the child is mine. I can hit him however I want. What can you do about it?" Duanshi cursed at Officer Wu. Anyone who heard Duanshi's inhumane words would feel a wave of displeasure well up in their hearts. Officer Wu also cursed Duanshi in his heart. It was mainly because he didn't have any conclusive evidence to arrest Duanshi. Otherwise, Officer Wu would have already arrested someone like Duanshi and sent him to jail. In 1999, video recorders and audio recorders were not everywhere. At least, the owners of the apartments did not have them. Otherwise, if someone had recorded the scene of Duanshe abusing the child or his abuse of the child, Duanshe would have been sent to jail long ago. Chapter 674. Did you tell her my address just now? You little b***tis, I'm going to kill you both later. Dad? You'd ***mnb***tc. Just you wait. I won't be human if I don't kill you. Just you wait. The voice came from Yun Jian's sweatpants pocket. It was Duanshe insulting Duanli before Officer Wu arrived. When the recording ended, Yun Jian took out the mini recorder from her pocket. The recorder was small and Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to prepare it for her. Now that New Cruise was growing in scale and had begun expanding across the country, Yun Jian planned to expand the company to other regions with its headquarters in Longmen City after some time. New Cruise's name in Country Z would be fully established. Of course, it was not something that could be done in a day and there was no hurry. As for the recorder, Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase it from overseas. She knew that she would need the recorder in many ways, so Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase a mini recorder for her. Zhang Jifan had just gotten the recorder for Yun Jian as well. Yun Jian had brought it with her today, but she did not expect the first use of the recorder to be on Duanshe. With the recorded conversation, Duanshe could do nothing even if he wanted to quibble. Officer Wu had been displeased with Duanshe for a long time. Of course, it was purely because of Duanshe's inhumanity. He did not treat his daughter as a human being but as a punching bag. Anyone who did such a thing would be despised. Officer Wu could not get any evidence of Duanshe's actions before this, but with the recording in Yun Jian's hands, he could arrest Duanshe immediately. Duanli did have many injuries on her as well. Once Yun Jian's recorder was out, Duanshe would not be able to escape from prison. Therefore, when Duanshe heard the recording, his face instantly turned pale from rosy to pale. Give it to me. Damn girl, give it to me. Duanshe did not care about anything else as he charged towards Yun Jian with a ferocious look on his face. Duanshe pounced on Yun Jian fiercely, but Yun Jian merely narrowed her eyes. Yun Jian did not move or make a sound. Be careful. Looking at Duanshe lunging at Yun Jian, Officer Wu's murderous move made him freeze in shock. Yun Jian raised her leg and kicked Duanshe to the ground. Officer Wu also breathed a sigh of relief. Taking advantage of the time when Duanshe pounced on Yun Jian, Mei had already disappeared without a trace. Because there were no policemen to stop Mei, she ran very fast. Duanshe was kicked to the ground, and Duanli merely blinked her small eyes twice. To Duanli, fatherly love did not exist at all. Moreover, Duanli had always been beaten to a pulp by Duanshe, so she did not have any affection for Duanshe. Duanya, on the other hand, curled up at the foot of the bed and looked over without moving. Her frightened look made one's heart ache. If one looked closely, the back of Duanli's and Duanya's hands and feet were covered with scars that looked like they had been cut. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. Duanshe did not want to go to jail. He wanted to snatch the recorder from Yun Jian's hands. Chapter 675. Duanshe had gone mad. He had gone mad. Duanshe had been to the police station before, and everyone knew that there was no freedom in the police station. People like Duanshe yearned for freedom. If Duanshe were to stay in the police station for a week, he would not be able to endure it. Moreover, there was another main reason. How could there be alcohol in the police station? Duanshe was an alcoholic and he would not be able to survive without alcohol. It was the same principle as how some people could not live without cigarettes, and those who were addicted to drugs could not get rid of their addiction. Therefore, when Yun Jian took out the recording device, Duanshe went crazy. He could not beat Yun Jian, so he picked up the kitchen knife and threatened Yun Jian. Seeing Duanshe pick up the kitchen knife, Officer Wu and the others were shocked. If a person was powerful, he could fight against 2 or 3 people at once. However, if the opponent had a deadly weapon, he would be afraid no matter how powerful he was. After all, this person had not been formally trained. Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal special forces training. Therefore, when they saw Duanshe pick up the knife, they shuddered. However, Officer Wu and the other policemen took out the stun batons on their waists. The stun batons were for the police. However, Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal training. Therefore, even with the stun batons in their hands, the sharp knife in Duanshe's hand still sent chills down their spines. Duanshe held the kitchen knife and approached Yun Jian carefully. At the same time, he threatened Yun Jian, "Give me the recording device. Give it to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Dad. Duanli's heart clenched. Although she was not related to Duanshi, Duanli did not want Duanshi to be in a desperate situation. Xiao Yunju had already pulled Duanli behind them. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Xiao Yunju looked at Duanli and said sternly, "Mr. Duan, this is considered an assault on a police officer. Put down your weapon." Officer Wu stood in front and advised Duanshi, "Unless she gives me the recording device, I'll kill all of you." Ah. Duanshi thought that everyone present was suppressed by him, and he became more arrogant. However, in reality, Duanshi's hand was trembling as he gripped the saber. "You want this?" Yun Jian held the recording device in her hand. She shook it in front of Duanshi and then held it in her hand. "Yes. Give it to me. Give it to me." Duanshi shouted even louder when he saw the recording device. He didn't want to go to jail. He couldn't go to jail. Therefore he had to get the recording device. "Want it? Come over and I'll give it to you." Yun Jian held the recording device. She crossed her arms and looked at Duanshi fearlessly. "I'm not going over. Throw it to me." Duanshi really thought that Yun Jian was afraid of the kitchen knife in his hand. After all, he could kill people with a kitchen knife without blinking an eye. The reason why Duanshi didn't want to go to Yun Jian's side was because he still remembered Yun Jian's strange skills. He really couldn't stop her. Duanshi firmly believed that as long as he didn't go over, Yun Jian would be afraid of him. Then, when the recording device was thrown to him, he would crush it immediately. "If you're not coming over, I'll go over." Yun Jian smiled sarcastically. Then, under the watchful eyes of Officer Wu and the other policemen, she walked toward Duanshi fearlessly. "Be careful." Although Officer Wu and the rest knew that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier, they still doubted her ability when they saw Yun Jian's age. It was human nature. Seeing Yun Jian walk toward Duanshi step by step, Officer Wu and the rest felt their hearts squeeze together. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.